We are live.
Okay, thank you, Mike and LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 2nd, 2021 East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. A very full agenda this evening. Before we get to the whole agenda, though, the board is going to go into executive session. It might be about 15 or 20 minutes. And then we'll get back to the agenda. So I would like to make a motion, board members, to go into executive session.
Second.
To discuss litigation.
To discuss litigation, pardon me, thank you.
Concur.
I concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Okay.
Chair, we are back live on television.
Okay, thank you, Mike, LTV. Good evening again, everyone. We are out of executive session and we will get started right away with our first scheduled public hearing this evening. I will read that in. The applicant is Susan A. Overbaugh, and the lot size and location is 14,936 square feet at 253 Westlake Drive, Montauk Beach Development Core, map number 1017 Montauk, tax map number 300-12-3-24. Description is to allow an existing 292 square foot deck, 20 square foot outdoor shower, 250 square foot brick patio, and 275 square foot garden shed to remain within 100 feet of freshwater wetlands, and to allow the existing garden shed to remain within pyramid setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit and 5 variances are required. 4 variances from 255-4-40 wetland setbacks of 31 feet, 30.3 feet, 30 feet, and 78.2 feet to allow a deck, outdoor shower, brick patio, and shed to remain 69 feet, 69.7 feet, 70 feet, and 21.8 feet, respectively, from wetlands where 100-foot setback is required. 1 variance from 255-11-72D to allow the shed to remain within the town's pyramid regulations, and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zone. The flood zone is X and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
I think, Chair, we should make sure we get the applicant into the meeting first.
Right,
She's
yeah.
calling in.
Mike,
I believe so. I have a few
available?
different phone numbers. I'm going to make sure if we can go through these one at a time. I'm going to unmute the first caller, which I believe is
Yep.
1514, the last 4 of that caller right now. We'll see if that's our applicant. Hello, caller ending in 1514. Are you there? Chair, through the application we used, the phone number came in a couple other times. I'm just going to pull it up a different way. One moment. Unmuting the
Yep.
same caller right now.
Yep.
Hello,
Hello?
caller.
Hi, I'm here.
Great. Good evening. For the record, would you introduce yourself, please? Good evening. It's John Whelan, the chairman of the zoning board. Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I'm Susan Overbaugh.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, Susan. Well, thank you. We just want to make sure you are here with us. I've just read in your public hearing notice for the record.
Yes, I could hear you, but I guess you couldn't hear me.
No, we hear you fine. We're good. We hear you. It's all good. So we are now going to have.
Chair, I think, yeah, you wanted to know whether or not we.
Oh, yeah, the affidavit of post. Thank you, counsel. Yes.
No problem. I have a affidavit that the mailings were done on the 20th day of January, and that the property was posted on the 19th day of January. So the the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Okay, now we will have a field report from our board member, one of our Montauk district. Ed, I believe this is you took this over. You are handling this, Ed. Is that correct?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you, Eleni. Here's a photo of the posting sitting out on the edge of Westlake Drive, and the house is immediately behind it. Next. This is looking northwest down Westlake Drive, down towards the dock area. You can see the size of the road, and this house is absolutely right out on the edge of the, right out to the road. Look the other way, please. Here we are looking back up towards 27. And again, you see the houses, all the houses across the way back up onto Montauk Lake. So this is on the opposite side from Montauk Lake. Next. This is again the picture of the house. As we approach it, you can see the driveway, and it's a small one-story home. Next. This is one of the areas of contention. Was somehow a smaller patio here in the front of the house that pre-existed. This brick patio now is larger than what had been seen in previous aerial photos. We'll see that this is to the wetlands immediately beyond it and to the southwest. There's that's one of the problems we're having here. That's what's in contention. Next. It's the inside corner of that, because that's where all the measurements are going to be taken when you take a look at the, you see the survey. Next. It's around behind the house. This is a deck, and you'll see, and they'll have a close-up of it, but there's a small shower there, outdoor shower. These all are going to require variances for the location that they're sitting in. Next. The outside shower and the corner of the deck. Next, please. Looking back from the other direction, I've got my back now to the southwest. You can see that this is the area we'll be measuring from behind me to this corner. This is the part of the deck that's going to be in contention. Next. This is the shed we're going to be discussing, and this is standing with my back to Westlake Drive looking. You can see how it's positioned relative to the house. It's behind the house and out towards the back property line. Next, please. Shed again, you can see it relative to the house, the vegetation, and the fence that's behind it. Next, please. Here we can see that that chain link fence, which I understand from Eleni, is not clear who's the owner of that fence, but that is running on the west property line between the applicant's property and their next nearest neighbor. That's, I think Lenny's measurement was in the TAM is 11.4. I got it as just over 11 feet from the fence, so you have an idea about where it's at. The pyramid variance that we required would be from this angle, from this this property line back. Next. This is looking at a neighbor that's immediately to the south. I turned my back from the, just to give you an idea of the closest neighbor to this particular property. Next. This is looking out directly from the corner of the shed across the wetlands. That's a broad-leafed goldenrod that covers the entire area. And it's not a very large wetland, but it is juxtaposed immediately up against the property. Next. Just looking back on, to give you an idea of both properties, this is to the north of the property. This is a hedge layer that runs down, a privet hedge. Next. On the opposite line, there we have an evergreen hedge that's running down along. Neither of these are in contention. Next. This is back from now, this property, the Glenmore Road is adjacent to this property, and it curls around behind, and I'm standing on Glenmore Road looking back across at the shed, and you get a good view of the wetlands. Again, it's not extensive, but it is immediately adjacent to the property. I think that's it. Is that it, Lenny? I think so. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Very thorough. Board members, any questions for Ed on his field report?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, then we will go to the applicant. Yeah, that would be great. Eleni, if you brought the survey up, thank you. Or whatever you think is appropriate, Eleni. So to the applicant, Susan, this is your time.
Mhm.
If you want to speak about the application, please go ahead.
Swear in.
Okay.
Just swear in.
What do you want me to speak?
Oh,
do
beg
you
your
want me to
pardon.
speak about?
Excuse me, Susan. Susan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Unless you're an attorney, I have to swear you in.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Thank you, Roy. So please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, continue, please.
Okay. I don't know how you want me to address this. You want me to talk about each item, or to mention the things that were in the planning report that I saw that were I wanted to talk about?
You can kind of whatever you want. You maybe want to give a little bit of history. It might be helpful too, if on your own take on the history of some of the stuff. Whatever you want to, you know, it's your.
Okay. First of all, yeah, the patio, it was on top of an existing structure, and the shed is on the foundation of a doghouse. And I thought that there was the footprint rule as far as putting up structures. I did not know that that was not appropriate. I knew it was 10 feet from my setback from my property line. So that's where I stand on that. As far as the deck, the patio, and the outdoor shower, I did not know I needed any variances on that. The outdoor shower is butted up against the kitchen because the outdoor shower does go into the main waste pipe. So there's absolutely no runoff from the shower. The patio is what it is, and the deck is what it is, and that was on top of a pre-existing deck that had been there years ago. We found some of the rotting timbers there, so that's why we chose to put the deck there. As far as the shed goes, in the paperwork from the planning department, they said because of the pitch of the shed roof, it could be leading to an increase in runoff into the wetlands. And I think there are circumstances that show that that is not the case in the case of my shed. First of all, the property slopes forward to Westlake Drive. It goes downhill. And the town of East Hampton put a large storm drain right on my front lawn with a tar apron, so any groundwater that is on my property does slope forward to Westlake Drive to the storm drain. The other thing is, a complaint was sent to the ordinance department claiming runoff to the adjacent property. The ordinance department thoroughly went through it. They were there when it rained. They were on my property after it rained. They did aerial surveys, and they called me and said there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that I'm causing any flooding or runoff to the adjacent property. So I don't think my shed is causing any runoff into the wetlands, even though I'm not in compliance with the 100 feet, which I did not know about. And the shed is up on blocks, so the groundwater can flow forward to the storm drain.
Okay. You said the deck and both the deck and the brick patio were on, at some point, were they pretty much the same size, as you recall?
No. Well, the deck I'm not sure because we found rotten timbers from previous owners, so we just went with what size we wanted, assuming that it was the footprint, approximate footprint. Now the patio, it is bigger than the concrete patio that was there, but I did not know that was an issue. But since the patio was there and we took that up and put our own patio there, I thought that was fine.
Okay. Well, maybe if we could see if board members have any questions of you for now, and then we could go to the planning department, to Eleni, and then you can always speak again. Board members, any questions for the applicant?
My only comment maybe, or a question is, that shed is a very substantial variance to the wetlands. So it's just not about the runoff that you're talking about. We have two situations, a pyramid variance, and you have a very substantial setback variance to the wetlands. And so that's, I think, one of the things we're going to be concerned about as a board.
Susan,
okay.
Can you remind us, you said it's on a dog, it used to be a dog house or something. Do you know, or perhaps the foundation? I'm asking about the foundation, actually.
Yes. Yeah, there were the remnants of a really dilapidated, stinky doghouse, which we removed.
Right. That doesn't, but I'm asking,
what
is the foundation? Yeah, what is the foundation upon which you built this shed? Well, we thought that because there was a structure there in place, that it was a legitimate place to put a structure as as like a footprint. No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking did you go down 3 feet? Is it a concrete wall? I'm asking what it is actually.
The shed? Oh no, the shed has no foundation.
What's it sitting on?
The shed is up on blocks.
Oh,
okay. It's up on some kind of blocks.
Okay, so that could be fairly easy to relocate, you understand, right? Just so you understand that.
Well, Do I have to relocate it? I mean, it's kind of a good spot. If I relocated, there's large trees on the property. If I'm not causing a problem to the wetlands, I honestly don't see why I would have to move it or change it
Right.
if I'm not causing a problem.
Well, that's the decision that this board will make at the end of
I know
the
that.
day.
I do understand that.
And the decision goes into perpetuity. So even after you're no longer in the house, the next owner also.
Okay, any other questions for now, board members, or we can hear from Eleni perhaps?
Here, Lenny.
Sure. Eleni, if you please. Good evening, Eleni.
Good evening, Eleni Nicolopoulos from the Planning Department.
Great, thank you. Eleni knows the deal. Eleni, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would start by saying the Planning Department considers the shed to be a poor candidate for the requested variances. However, the existing decking, patio, and outdoor shower appear to be reasonable requests. The shed itself is 20.1 feet from the wetlands. And so it appears that there are locations on the property that it could be moved, which would be more conforming and would eliminate the need for the pyramid variance. It would require a variance almost anywhere it was placed, but it would eliminate the need for the pyramid variance. The steep pitch of the shed roof is not typical that we see on most sheds. And it could be leading to an increase in runoff. And it's not equipped with leaders and gutters. That would be something that would alleviate runoff if that were to be happening. There are two wetlands associated with this parcel. The wetland to the north up here, which is large, it's an extensive wetland, and this wetland to the south down here. So this is the one that really is in question. It's closer, but it is a smaller wetland. The smaller wetland is most likely to have been affected by the presence of the shed, since it's 21.8 feet, and the lack of leaders and gutters, with the steep roof pitch that's angled towards the wetland. It has the potential to be increasing the runoff. It's unclear if the shed has had any impact on the wetland. In reviewing the town's aerials from GIS, it appears that the shed was built sometime between 2013 and 2016. It didn't appear that there was anything else on the subject property at that time, and the doghouse didn't appear on the certificate of occupancy, which is not uncommon. Very often, small structures like that back in the day weren't on COs, but we didn't see it in any of the aerials. The decking, outdoor shower, and patio do meet better wetland setbacks than the shed. So we would suggest that the board consider if they are, if they meet the variance standards. Other than that, any questions?
How stable is that wetland, Eleni? Can you tell if it's getting any larger or it's been relatively the same size?
I believe that this wetland was first identified in, it was 2003. Let me just check. I believe, 2003 was when this wetland was first identified. It doesn't appear to have changed much in that time. It's unclear. If the shed was established sometime between 2013 and 2016. That's not that much time, but it could have had an impact. It's hard to tell.
Eleni, it looks like there's some shed issues with the neighbor, but that's not what we're here for tonight. But
the neighboring property also has a shed somewhere. Let me see if I can.
It looks like they have two of them that are very close to the property line there. Correct. On that survey, it showed the two sheds very close. See on the upper left? Yeah.
This, yeah. That's on the neighboring property on the other side.
Yeah. Now that backyard, Lenny, the backyard is fairly clear. I wonder if maybe we could really quickly go back to one of Ed's backyard photos. I'm just curious how clear that backyard is currently.
It is pre-existing non-conforming to clearing, and the property is considered to be cleared.
Yeah, I just want to look at trees actually. If
Sure, yeah, let me bring up.
would you be able to? Thanks. And then we can move along here. Oh, yeah. So there's the one, that's what I was, so if you could go back, there's the one very large tree we just see there, correct? Right there. Yep.
Well,
There's 2 large trees in the back.
That's what I wanted to look for. Maybe if you keep going, Eleni, the other one will show up.
there was another good shot across.
Oh, there we go. Right.
No, that's
Front.
No, that's the front yard. That's the front.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's from Westlake Drive.
Yeah. So there's one big tree next to the shed in the back we see so far.
Ed had a shot there, I think, to the north from the shed.
Maybe if you keep going, Eleni.
There's a large tree on the north side.
You can, Mr. Chair, you can see here that there are 2 large red maples that are beyond the shed, and there's a high bush blueberry there. That's that large shrub. But there are 2 very large maples, or nice sized maples in the backyard.
Right, right.
They're very old.
Yeah. Any other photos there you can run through it, Lenny, or that's about it? And there's the trees there. So that
Yeah,
one
where I
maple is
put the
over
shed
there.
was a clear area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It would be very helpful somehow. I don't know how we could do this, but for making our decisions, it would be helpful even to have those things kind of marked out generally on, even if it was a sketch where they are in the backyard there for this board's decisions. I don't know if Eleni, if you'd be able to do an estimate of that or something, and we could leave it because the written record would be open. I don't know if I can ask you to do that, or maybe we can just keep looking at these photos. I mean,
An estimate of where the trees are located?
yeah, because if this board is going to want the shed moved, it would be good to obviously not disturb the existing large red maples. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, the man
Well, we-
that came to trim them said they're quite valuable because they're so old.
So that's, if you can hold that, Eleni, pardon me, Susan. So that's the one big maple right in the back there, Ed, right over on the line, right? That looks like it's kind of in line with the side of the garage, correct, Ed?
That's correct, yes.
North side.
Yeah, so we know that one is there, and then if we flip through, you see the other one is just a little. Keep
That's
going.
the front yard. Keep going.
Keep going.
No, you got to come back.
Keep going back. Keep going back. Yep. There, that's what I wanted to say. There. Okay, so we get a pretty good idea. You can see where that one's probably in line with the shower or something like that.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
There's clearly space in between the.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that stuff. Thanks, Eleni. Okay. Board members, any questions for Eleni? And otherwise, we'll move along and have Susan give a final comment.
My only question, Mr. Chair, is that if Eleni has any idea from any of the past documentation or aerial photos as to the size of the patio that's at the front of the house, the one that's been replaced with the red brick, do we know if it was relatively that size or just a small entry? Do we have any other information about that area?
I believe that I do have, let me pull up the 1999 Certificate of Occupancy. This is the,
Oh, that's very helpful. Yeah.
so it,
No, it looks like half the size, maybe, Eleni, something like that.
yeah, so it's been expanded. If you switch over to the aerial, it looks like
Right.
it ended here.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, the variance would have been the same on the original.
Sure, because of the adjacency, right, Tim, to the
Yeah.
wetland, yeah. And that jog out in the house right there, is that the shower? No, that's a kitchen jog out, right?
Yeah.
The
Yes,
little
that's
bump
still
out.
there.
That's the bump out, right, right. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Eleni, board members?
No.
Okay, Susan, a final comment?
Yes. Yes,
Nancy Lynn, you're over modulating. We can't understand you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Chair, if I
Oh.
may, I believe she's saying
Yeah.
that we should check with the public to see if there are any callers on the phone.
Yeah, sure.
And,
Yeah, thank
Chair,
you.
just
Thanks,
so you know,
Nancy Lynn,
you
yes.
have-
No,
do
I
have
was
a
going to
couple
first go back. Oh, yes, and then we'll go back to Susan. I was going to go to Susan first. Yes, I'm sorry. Thanks, Nancy Lynn. Yes, Michael, Mike, do we have anyone calling in on this?
We have 3 callers who I don't know who they pertain to, so I'll go through them one at a time and see what they're calling in for.
Okay, and it looks like Nancy Lynn is going to kind of reboot here.
Do you want me to wait till she comes back in to take the first?
No, you
caller?
you can go ahead because you might have to go through a few,
All right,
please.
so the first caller's last 4 digits of their phone number end in 3942. I'm going to unmute that now.
Thank you.
This is Nick Spadola. I'm on for the next hearing.
Yeah, okay, Nick, thanks. Okay, next one, Mike.
One moment, Chair.
Yep.
Moving on to the next caller with the last 4 digits 6013.
I'm here for the Hampton Waters issue on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Next one, Mike.
Moving along, Chair. One moment, please. The last 4 of this caller's phone number is 7619. Unmuting now.
This is Emily Hazelwood. I'm on for a different agenda item.
Okay,
Could
thank
please
you.
clarify which agenda you're on for, Miss?
The Lazy Point application.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's helpful, Mike. That way you can register the numbers. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so Mike, it looks like any other callers?
One moment, double checking.
Yep.
No, I have a few other callers, and their caller ID pertains to the specific applications coming up in the future. So there are no new callers waiting on this.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Let's see if Nancy Lynn is back with us. Is she back yet?
She's coming in now. Just one moment.
Okay. There she is. Nancy Lynn,
Back.
can we hear you? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Thank you, Nancy Lynn.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, so Nancy Lynn, there were no callers. We scrolled
Okay.
through Mike's while you were getting rebooted there. Okay, so Susan, we'll give you a final comment here, and then we're gonna wrap it. We're gonna close out. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
One point I did want to make when you were talking about the space between the 2 large trees is Pulver Gas had me move my tanks, so the line for my LPV tanks is straight back from there, and also my septic tank, which I've had inspected, is right there too. So it's not a really great spot to put something else.
You know what? I think,
Septic.
Counsel, it seems to me we're going to be leaving the written record open because the transcript has to get on the website.
Sure.
It seems to me we really should know where that tank is and where that line is. Because
Where the septic is?
Yeah, the septic and where the gas line is. Because, Susan, if this board does not approve your shed, we're going to want to give you another location.
Right.
Okay. So is there any way you can, I don't know if you have any assistants who might be able to generally mark up on the survey where the line is or where the septic tank is, or if you want to, I don't know if you probably couldn't get the surveyor out there within a few weeks. You'd have a couple of weeks, but.
Was it on the other photo, the other survey, the older survey that Lenny had? Oh, no. Look like
No,
it.
that's not on there.
The septic tank is marked on the property. There's a little white thing sticking up, and the Pulver gas tanks are smack straight back, so you could see the line would go straight back.
Oh, there.
Tanks.
Yeah,
Are those
they're
the tanks?
on the survey. Yeah,
Are those the tanks we see on the survey?
yeah.
Great. Okay. And where's the septic tank roughly off the kitchen, the bump out, Susan?
It's the septic tank is in between. If you go straight back from the deck, it's right in line with the tanks. They're right there, and there's a little white marker right in the lawn because I had it checked. It's right there.
Okay, so there is room, there is room, south of that, between the tree. There'd be room between the septic and between that red maple that's over on the south, side.
So the
Anyway.
red maple that's near the garden shed. Between the septic line and the red maple, that would only move it over a little bit then.
No, I'm talking about the other, and on the other side of the septic. No, way on the other side, behind
Way
the
over?
garage. I'm not telling you what we're going to decide, but I'm just we're going to want to know, if this board does not approve it, we're going to want to know where we would recommend,
Okay. I don't think there's room over there with that tree. That's what I'm saying. There is. I don't think there's room with that tree.
Chair, maybe you could ask the applicant if she would mind if Eleni did went back out and did another field report.
I know. I think Eleni, I appreciate, I didn't want to ask Eleni to do that, but Eleni, if you can hear us here, I think the best, if the board agrees with me, I think we really want to know where the tree is, where the tanks are, where the septic tank is. And if Eleni, you could go out even with a tape measure, go off the back fence, and if you could, give us an estimate, that would be super helpful. And it would be Susan, she'd be doing you a favor because this is part of the process.
Right.
Do you think, Eleni, you would be able to do that?
I could do that. It would not be official. It would have to be done by a surveyor if it were to.
Yeah, eventually we would have it done, but it would give us a rough idea, for our discussions. And then we could, if something happens, it could be a condition of getting things on the survey, But am I asking too much, Eleni? Would that be okay to
I can give you a rough idea, but I can't say that it will be
Sure. We're not going to hold you accountable to, being this surveyor there.
Okay.
But if you could do any kind of measurements. Go ahead, Susan.
Thanks. If I do have to, as Eleni says, if it does have to be official drawing, could I have a builder's drawing as opposed to a surveyor's drawing? Because quite frankly, it's almost $1,500 every time I have a survey done, and my builder could do a builder's drawing like he did for the 1.4 feet pyramid variance.
Well, why don't we start off? Have your builder. The builder knows what triangulation is. What they do is he measures from two different points, and where the tape measures intersect, it gives you an exact dimension. So your builder, I'm sure, knows how to triangulate things. So have your builder give us a triangulation of where the trees are, where the septic is, to his best estimate, where the tanks are, and we'll leave the written record open for that. And that would be helpful to get us going, and then we can deal with the next step depending on the decisions this board makes. Okay.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm just writing this down. You want a triangulation of where the trees are, the septic tank is, and where the gas lines are, right?
Yes, and he can triangulate off different portions of the house, off the fence corner. A builder would know how to do that.
Okay. I will try to get a hold of him and get that drawing.
And if they have questions, he can call Eleni, and she can explain what the triangulation is.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Chair.
Thank you.
Before we end, can I ask a question, Chair, from LTV's perspective? There is a new caller that came in, and I don't know what hearing they're for, whether or not you want to open it back up to.
Yes, please. Yeah, we haven't closed, so please do that, Mike. Please check that line. Thank you.
So this caller's last four digits end in 0172. I'll unmute that now.
Yes, I'm calling in about the Hampton Waters discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There are no
Okay. Ed, any comments from you? Any final comment, Ed, or anyone else, or before we wrap up here?
No, I'm fine. Joe.
Okay. Otherwise, so Ed, would you like to close this out then, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for the applicant Susan A. Overbaugh for her property at 250 Westlake Drive, Montauk, tax map number 300, 2021-012-03-24, but leave the written record open until 2 weeks after the minutes of this meeting are posted on our website.
Second,
I'm not sure if I can get my builder to do it in 2 weeks. Can I, if it takes longer, is that a problem?
it will be longer than 2 weeks.
It will. Council, Nancy, could you comment on that, Nancy Lynn?
Yes, that's 2 weeks after the transcript posts. Transcripts are posting from 2 to 4 weeks from the time of the hearing. So you have that much time plus another 2 weeks.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay, I didn't understand that.
Sure. And if there is some reason why you can't get that in during that time, contact the board through our secretary, Kyle, and request additional time, and we can bring that to the board's attention, and they can extend that time if necessary.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. And thank you. Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Eleni, for your work on this.
We need a motion?
Oh, yes, we do. Please. I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Motion again?
We had the motion.
Oh, we had the motion. I thought we did. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't
right.
concur, so I concur.
Oh, okay, good. Now, okay. So we good, Nancy Lynn? We have a
Yes.
motion. We're good? Great.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Okay, we'll move on now. Our next public hearing. Mike at LTV, can you go ahead and let all those folks in that are involved in this hearing? They can come in now, and as you do that, I will start reading this into the written record.
Okay.
Okay, so our next public hearing this evening is 216 Old Montauk Highway LLC is the applicant. The lot size and location is 66,282 square feet total at 216 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-12.4. The description is to construct a 310 square foot carport within coastal setbacks on a parcel that contains coastal bluffs and beaches. Relief sought here is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20, one variance, and any other relief necessary from the East Hampton Town Code. A variance of 41.3 feet from 255-4-40 coastal setbacks to allow construction of the carport 83.7 feet from the toe of the bluff where 125 feet is required. This is in an A residence zone. Flood zones here are X and VE velocity flood zones. Secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
Hang on just a second. I apologize. Have an affidavit of mailing on the 22nd day of January, and an affidavit that posting was done on the 22nd day of January, so the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you. So Terry, I believe, Terry, you handled this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Terry, if you would.
And he has my photos.
Great.
This was on Friday. You could see the notice was up there. It was a little bit hidden from the road as far as the view, but I know we have a lot of letters that have come in, so apparently notice got out there. I don't know if it survived the storm, but it was there on Friday morning. Next, I drove down to the bottom after the caretaker let me in, and now this is generally the area at the bottom, parking area, and that's the nearest neighbor to the northeast there. You can see the house up on the hill, and it's the general vicinity of where the carport's going to be located. And it's just another angled shot again toward the area where the shrubs are have the protection for the winter, but in this general area of the property. Next, you can see the house. I didn't realize these came out so dark on the back, but this is again just another angle, and this is the applicant's house there. Next, this is the area where the beyond the carport where the entrance and the stone walk goes to the entrance of the home. Next. Now this is the walk down the stairs to the front of the house, and just took a couple of shots from there. If you go to the next one, I did walk down toward the, well, okay, first I just turned and took a shot toward the ocean. A lot of glare on here. And so you do see there is vegetation there between the house, the pool area and the decking and the sand. Next, tried to get a closer shot of that. I went down toward where the pool is, just took a shot here of, you can see the snow fencing and the terrain there and the sand. And then I took next, should be up toward the other direction. So again, you can see what shrubbery is there, and the shot toward the east. See a lot of unimproved vegetation. This is beyond the applicant's property, but another shot looking up toward the east of the bluff of the toe of the bluff. And next, from that down by the pool area again, I just took another shot up, and this is the neighboring houses, and farther up toward the north and the east neighbors. And
Last one.
This is a shot, I believe, in the other direction, also catching part of the neighbor's house on the other side. And is that it, Lenny?
That's it. That's the last one.
Yeah, I didn't take any more because it was quite cold and it was frozen.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Any questions, board members, on Terry's field report? No? Okay.
I would just comment, Mr. Chair, that I was there on Sunday and the sign was down at that point.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Council, are we okay with that? What do you, Council, as far as notice?
You're muted, Nancy.
Nancy Lynn?
Muted. Wait a minute. Sorry. Forgot I was muted. Tim, when did you say that it was down?
Sunday morning.
Okay. All right. Well, with the storm, that's one of those things that we have issues with. Hopefully it has been, since there are people taking care of the property, hopefully somebody has replaced that today or replaced it by today.
Maybe the applicant's agent can comment on that. Okay, thank you, Nancy Lynn and Tim and Terry. Thank you for that. Okay, is the agent for the applicant or the applicant on the line? I believe so.
There are two callers, Chair, on the phone.
No, we have, I want the.
No, Linda Margolin.
Yeah, Ms. Margolin, are you the agent here? Hello, Ms. Margolin?
I'm the attorney presenting this applicant.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, I am the attorney presenting this application for the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
My firm is Margolin Basunder. We are of counsel to the firm of, to the Ackerman firm, and I am presenting the application today.
Okay, thank you. So as you know, I believe from past experiences, we typically give you about 10 minutes, okay? And then we'll give any consultants you have with you 3 minutes. Okay, so if you could try to keep your comments to those parameters, please. And you can go ahead.
I will do my best, but there's a lot of material to cover. Let me start by saying.
Let me just interrupt you. Let me say this. Let me just say this, that, you know, we have any written material that you've submitted for the record, the board members read that material, so it's not necessary to reread that material to us, okay? So you can continue, please.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Let me just say that this application is different from the prior application that was denied by this board. The structure and its location are similar, but the relief is different. That is because on the prior application, the surveyor, the planning department staffer, And in fact, indeed, the board itself all overlooked the fact that the lot area was erroneously excluded the area of the lot that's attributable to the flagpole. That was 3,300 square feet. And when it was added, the lot area coverage variance that was sought initially was not actually needed. So we're not seeking a lot coverage variance. We are seeking an NRSP permit and a variance on the setback from the toe of the bluff. Part of the application that's been submitted includes a report dated in January 2020 by Dr. Lee Wisher that was submitted on the prior application, attesting to his expert opinion that neither the construction nor the presence of the proposed carport would adversely affect the bluff or the dunes or any other natural resource. Dr. Wisher is on the line via telephone. I'd like to have him sworn in so that he can talk about his conclusions on the current application.
Okay, would you like to have him speak now and be sworn in now?
Yes, that would be good.
Lee Wisher. I'm on the line.
Okay, good evening. If you could maybe give us your address one more time, even just for the record. Your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Lee Wisher. I'm with the Woods Hole Group, and my home address is 66 Emmons Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts.
Okay, good evening again. And let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please continue.
Dr. Wisher, I'd like to ask you, did you review the current application and your report from January 2020?
I did.
Okay. And could you tell the board about your conclusions on the current application and whether they differ in any way from your conclusions on the prior application?
I looked in detail at the material submitted with this application, and the differences in the carport are de minimis, and they are located, again, almost entirely on the impervious surface. And so my conclusions have not changed from the January 20th report to this present application. They remain the same.
And in your opinion, is there going to be any adverse effect on any natural resource from either constructing or the presence of this carport?
Now, in my report, I gave a fairly comprehensive list of construction protocols. If those are followed, I see no impact on this project on either the beach or the dune fronting the house or the adjacent properties.
Okay. Are there any questions that the board has of Dr. Wisher?
I have a couple of questions for Mr. Wisher. Hi, Mr. Wisher. Do you this project is entirely south of the CHA line. Have you taken that into effect on your report?
Yes, I have.
Is there currently a DEC permit for this structure?
I cannot answer that. I was only contracted to look at the potential impacts of this project. You'd have to ask either Attorney Margolin or...
Right. In your expert opinion, do you know whether or not the DEC will have the same findings of you with a new structure south of the CHA line?
You're asking me to speculate what the DEC would do? I am not capable of doing that, and I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Margolin, do you want to continue?
May I continue, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, please. If there are no other questions of Dr. Wisher, I'm going to let him hang up.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Attorney Margolin. I'm signing off.
Okay. Thank you for participating.
Thank you very much. Um, let me say that there are numerous comments that have been made in the technical analysis memorandum, and I'm going to direct my presentation to those. I'm not going to repeat what's in our application, as you requested, Mr. Chairman. The technical analysis memorandum says that the board should discuss whether this parcel is adequate to sustain any further improvements based on the natural features associated with the property, as well as the current improvements already located on the property. I want to point out to the board that that is not a standard for either the NRSP permit or the variance that we are seeking, and cannot be used by the board to deny the relief that we are seeking. The lot coverage restrictions that we originally thought applied to this lot do not in fact apply, and we will not be over with respect to coverage. There is the technical analysis memorandum says that the entire property is located seaward of the CHA line, and that the LWRP states that any existing structures located seaward of the CHA line in Reach 9 on Old Montauk Highway that are destroyed in a storm event shall not be replaced, and that the bluff be revegetated, and apparently suggests that that is another thing that the board needs to consider. This statement can, although it is correct that such a policy exists in the LWRP, once again, it can't be the basis for the board deciding on this variance or the NRSP permit. The policy itself speaks to the ability to rebuild if a structure is destroyed by a storm, and that's not what we're asking the board for permission, so the policy doesn't apply. In addition, LWRP announces policies. It's aspirational for the town. It's up to the town to adopt these policies and turn them into legislation and make them a standard. And there is no legislation that makes this a standard that bears on the current application. The technical analysis memorandum says the board should consider the severity of the bluff setback variance requested and should discuss whether they are comfortable granting bluff setback variances seaward of the CHA line in this area of town. Once again, this is not a standard for the grant of bluff setback variance that pertains, there is nothing in the standard set by the town code that pertains to the location of the CHA line. Since the town has never adopted its own CHA legislation, consideration of whether or not to grant a CHA permit for the carport is up to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and not this board. Since there was a question from one of the board members, I will simply say that we anticipate that DEC will grant the permit under CHA, that it's an administrative permit because it does not expand existing coverage by more than 24.9%, and it will be an administrative permit. CHA coverage, that is. With respect to the bluff setback and the amount of variance that we are seeking, your technical analysis memorandum notes the location of the other structures on the lot. And that's on page 2, where it says the pre-existing improvements on the property are residence located 29 feet from the bluff toe, decking 19 feet, stone patio 12, swimming pool 18, and a sanitary system on the bluff toe itself. In essence, the location of this carport is further away from the bluff toe than any of the other improvements. And as the technical analysis memorandum acknowledges, there is no other location for a carport on this property. That is because the property is served by a narrow driveway that actually makes use of an easement on the lot that nests with the flag lot. And I know those board members who have been there know that it's a very steep driveway with a slight pull-off and no other room where a carport could be located. So the variance that we're seeking is the minimum that is required in order to put the carport in. It is landward of the existing house. It's going to be placed in an already disturbed area that is paved with asphalt. And because of these, and is detailed in the memorandum that supports this application and in Dr. Wisher's report, the carport will not have any effect on the natural resources that the town code seeks to protect. I would like to point out, and I emailed it to the clerk of the board, that there is a prior decision of this board for the neighboring property owned by Selfridge. And in that decision, which dates from 2001, the board noted in recapping the comments made by Brian Frank on the application at that time, the board noted that one of the reasons that supported the granting of a variance in terms of the NRSP was that the pool house, not the variance, but the NRSP, was that the pool house that Selfridge sought to put on its property, and I'm going to quote, it said, the pool house is proposed in an area of the property previously cleared and disturbed during construction of the existing improvements. It will max out allowable lot coverage, but the unusually dense coverage will not pose a detriment to the parcel's natural features. So that is the way the board handled a variance.
Okay.
Was that a toe of the
I'm
bluff
sorry,
variance?
Mr. Deline, I'm sorry. Could you
Was
repeat
that a toe of the bluff variance as well?
No, there was not a variance there.
Okay, thank you.
But it was an NRSP permit. So with respect to the appropriateness of an NRSP permit, the board looked at the location and whether or not it was going to go on or directly affect any natural resources that the town code seeks to protect. And the board determined that since it was going in an already disturbed location, it would not.
Would you remind us again?
What was the
I'm sorry.
address of that one, Ms. Margolin? The Selfridge? What's the address?
224. 224.
And where is that in relation?
224. It's the house above and immediately to the east.
Right there. Okay, thanks, Eleni.
That one.
That house there. Okay. And the pool house is probably the thing back by the driveway. Yeah, Eleni has it. It's back by the driveway, way back there. Okay. Thanks, Eleni. That's helpful.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting you needed a bluff toe variance.
Yeah.
But in terms of the overall appropriateness of an NRSP permit, the fact that it went in an already disturbed area was significant to the board at that time.
We understand.
The technical analysis memorandum discusses whether or not I'm sorry, Mr. Whalen, did I interrupt
No, I didn't
you?
say anything. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. The technical analysis memorandum discusses whether or not the property is already over improved or would be over improved with the addition of the carport. Once again, this is not a criterion that is available to the board in determining whether or not to grant the relief that we're seeking. It's not in any of the specific criteria in the town code governing either the NRSP or area variances. The technical analysis memo suggests that the board take into account the comments made by neighbors on the prior application. Unless the neighbors have resubmitted their comments, the board is not permitted to do that. But even if they were, the comments that the neighbors made at that time mostly alluded to the fact that we were seeking a lot coverage variance, and they used that as a jumping off point to claim that the lot was over improved and we shouldn't get that variance. That situation does not apply now. The technical analysis memo asserts that the carport doesn't meet standards for variances. I want to point out that the standards for variances quoted in the TAM are wrong. The town is not permitted to supersede the standards for area variances that exist in New York Town Law 267B. And those standards are a little bit different from what is quoted from section 255-850. The standards in section 255-850, which is in the town code, are explicitly not allowed under the case called Sasso v. Osgood, decided by the New York Court of Appeals in 1995. The standard, and the only standard, is what is in town law section 267B. And it's important because that is not a negative standard in the town law. Whereas the town's own code is negative, it casts it in a negative. So the standard is that the Board of Appeals is supposed to take into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. And there are 5 specific criteria: whether there will be an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, whether the benefit can be achieved by some other method that is feasible for the applicant to pursue, whether the requested area variance is substantial, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, and whether the difficulty was self-created, which is relevant but not disqualifying. So,
Okay, we have to.
Does it create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood?
So I'm sorry, you're not going. You've had much more than 10 minutes. I'm sorry. Do you have other people?
I understand that, but this is
and you can certainly.
I understand that, but you did not hold the prior applicant to 10 minutes, Mr. Witt.
We went. It's Wheeling actually, but we went.
And I'm almost done.
Okay, if you could wrap it up, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. The carport can't be seen from the street. It can't be seen from the beach. And the only way that the neighbors can see it is if they peer through the landscaping that in each case shields them from the ability to look at the driveway of this house. It doesn't interfere with the neighbors' views of the ocean. There is no other feasible method for the applicant to pursue to put a carport in place. It is not substantial, we submit, because of the fact that it is landward of the house and can't be placed any other way. It will not have any adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions. You have Dr. Wisher's report. The other thing that I would like to say is I would like to speak to the technical analysis asserts apparently that granting the variance will increase the property's nonconformity. If what the technical analysis memo was suggesting is that granting the variance would violate section 255-1-42 of the code, this is incorrect. That section of the code covers certain expansions of nonconforming structures and nonconforming uses, but those standards are not implicated by this application. Finally, as to the interference with view, I can't see why it is more offensive to the neighbors if they care to look down on this property to see the roof of a carport than it is to see a parked car or asphalt. But unfortunately, it's not possible to construct a carport and make it invisible. I'm open to the board's questions. I've completed my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions?
Yeah, could you comment on it regarding the NRSP 255-410, item C, which is a listing of danger to life and property caused by coastal flooding and storms, and the preservation of the town's beaches and that are essential to the character of East Hampton in terms of the NRSP?
Are you asking me to comment on that?
Yeah, because you said it does meet the natural resources standards. So, yes.
Yes, Dr. Wisher's report is quite clear that neither the construction nor the existence of the carport will create runoff, damaging to the beach. It will not destabilize the dune. There is no native vegetation that's going to be destroyed or adversely affected as a result. It's covered quite thoroughly in his report.
Okay, but
I can run through that, but obviously that would mean I'm repeating what's in the record.
Okay, board members, any other questions? And then
Yeah, I believe we were also concerned in the first go round, if you will, and not regarding the lot area variance, but we were concerned about the environmental impact of an asphalt driveway being sloping down and ultimately affecting the bluff itself, the amount of runoff. Do we know if that's been contained? Do you know if there's any mitigation offering up on this application for that? Go ahead.
The actual application proposes installing dry wells to catch runoff from the carport. And with
Not from the
respect,
carport, from the
I've
driveway.
been there,
Is there
Mr. Dowling. I don't
Is
think
there
there's
any mitigation? Is there any mitigation from dealing with the runoff from the existing driveway?
You mean from the existing condition of the driveway?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with whether or not there are any dry wells already installed there. There is literally no room to plant more vegetation here. As you saw, there's a lot of native vegetation.
The amount of runoff coming down an asphalt driveway, we were concerned about that environmental condition on the property.
Oh, wait, are you suggesting that we might put put some kind of drainage cap?
Yeah.
I don't know. We could consider whether or not we want to install a dry well or something else to catch the driveway runoff. Is that what you're suggesting?
I believe we discussed that in the first go round too. As far as
Mr. Deline, I'm sorry. There's a delay, and I'm not sure I'm responding properly.
You are. You got it. I got it. Go ahead. That's fine.
If the board wanted to condition the
Who was speaking just then?
If the board wanted to condition the grant of this variance on installing a driveway to deal with an underground structure to deal with driveway runoff, I can't say, not having spoken to the applicant yet, but I think that would be acceptable.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other? I'll just jump back. As I recall, when we were discussing that, Roy, you recall we were talking about it would probably require a series of trench drains, not just obviously you can't just have one drain at the bottom of the driveway. That's not the way it works because of the runoff to the sides of the driveway and that sort of thing. But that's really another issue. I'm wondering, do you have any other consultants, or is Nick getting on this before we go to the planning department? Did you have anyone else, Ms. Margolin, to speak?
Nick was only on in case I needed help. No, he's not.
Okay. We like Nick. Okay, let's hear from the planning department. Eleni, if you would, please.
Hi, Eleni Nicolopoulos from the planning department. So I would first like to say that yes, the planning department does consider this to be a poor candidate for the requested Nrsp and variance. This area of town, we measure setbacks from the toe of the bluff instead of the crest of the bluff. So the toe of the bluff is about right here. And I think it was brought up on the neighboring property about that pool house. The setbacks would have been measured from the toe, but jurisdiction would have been measured from the crest. So which would be why this pool house would be in jurisdiction. However, it did not need any variances. So it's much further from the toe of the bluff than the proposed carport. So that's just an aside. Even with the addition of the extra lot area from the flag strip, the improvements on the buildable area of the lot are still severely constrained, and the residence is located in a non-conforming location in regards to bluff crest setbacks. Can be stated that the residence is 29 feet from the bluff toe, decking 19 feet, the stone patio is located 12 feet. The swimming pool is 18 feet. And then the sanitary system is just right on the toe of the bluff itself. These are non-conforming to bluff toe setbacks. And so in suggesting that this carport would be adding to the non-conformity, it would be another non-conforming structure in regards to bluff toe setbacks. It's important to note that the size of the parcel has not changed. Only the calculations have changed, and no lot area has been added to the buildable area on this parcel since the last application. So it's not that the lot has gotten any bigger, it's just that the calculations were incorrect the first time around. So the buildable area of the lot is only down here. And also just an aside on this property, in June of 2020, a stop work order was issued on the parcel for the construction of a patio in the June area. It's not necessarily relevant to this application itself, but it just shows that the applicants are aware of the permitting necessary, and that was being done without an NRSP or building permit. However, when we did visit the property, there was no evidence of that patio anywhere, so it was corrected. But basically, we do want to see if the board is comfortable granting bluff setback variances seaward of the C-Haul line. The C-Haul line does come, actually I can bring it up. It does come across right here. It is something that, there's the C-Haul line right there. While it may not be something that, is, I guess, relevant, but the LWRP does state that, if anything were to be destroyed seaward of the C-Haul line in this area, it should not be replaced. So the board should consider whether or not they feel comfortable granting a variance for a structure that would not be able to be replaced in theory, if given it was destroyed in a storm. And overall, just the planning department considers this to be a poor candidate for the requested variance. If there are any questions.
Yeah, Eleni, point out for me again where the existing septic is.
The sanitary is just down here. I have it on a survey as well. Let me bring that up.
So if that sanitary system were to fail, where would a new sanitary system go?
In theory, I mean, there's no conforming location on this property. We want it to be as far back as possible, probably up here. However,
right, so would you think, so obviously if it were to fail, they would not be able to replace a new sanitary system in the location of a non-conforming septic system location. Is that correct?
We would ideally like them to place it in a more conforming location. This is right along the bluff toe. We would not want it to be in this location. However, it would need to be in the same or a better location.
So would the carport impede that ability, in your opinion?
Possibly, yes. It would need to be a sanitary system that could would be with load-bearing covers because it's already an existing driveway. However, that would probably be the only reasonable location on the lot to replace it.
And I would add that a new sanitary, if it were placed up in the driveway, would have to be 10 feet, I believe, from that carport, if that carport were to be constructed. So therefore,
and property line setbacks too.
And property line setbacks too. So.
Well, if I may speak, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead for a minute. Yep.
And by the way, I want to correct a mistake that I made earlier. We already have a DEC permit for the carport. My understanding of a new IA system, which would be required if the existing system failed, is that The location would have to be determined, including the location of the drainage field. Obviously, since you can't inhabit a house without a working septic system at that time, if it was necessary to relocate the carport or remove it entirely, that's what the homeowner would have to do. But, I don't think we are. And the other thing that I wanted to point out to you, Mr. Chairman, is that Mr. Wisher's report apparently covers the drainage from the driveway. And I did want to point out that I don't know what construction we'll be able to do on the driveway because a chunk of the driveway is not on our property, but on an easement.
Yes, I see that. Did the applicant ever consider as mitigation replacing the existing sanitary system?
I don't believe it's ever been the subject of any discussion.
Yeah, it seems to me it's one of the most important things, environmentally that we're dealing with here.
I will say that as a technical matter, since it would be unrelated to any of the impacts that would be caused by the carport, it wouldn't be a proper condition for this board to set.
I'm not saying that, but many applicants will come to us and will offer an IA system when it's not required as mitigation. That's my point. I'm just saying, I'm not telling you to do anything.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not authorized at this point to make that offer.
Sure. Okay, Eleni, any other comments from you, Eleni, before we go to the public? Or questions?
No further comments.
Okay, thank you, Eleni. Board members, any questions for Eleni?
Yeah, actually, Eleni, in the report, there's a statement that other houses along this area are closer to the bluff than the applicants. It doesn't look like there are many, but for the ones that are, would those also be pre-existing non-conforming?
Yes. Any of the houses that are this close to the bluff are pre-existing non-conforming.
And one of them down the beach there, a new IA system was installed as an aside. But okay, let's go to the public now. Mike at LTV, do we have anyone on the line?
No, Chair, we do not. All the current callers are on hold for the next two upcoming hearings.
Okay. Okay.
That bodes well.
Okay, Ms. Margolin, before we close out, do you have a final quick comment? If you'd like to make we give you the last.
No, I think I think the board understands my position. I understand you'll be leaving the written record open in conformance with the way you're conducting these Zoom hearings.
Exactly.
Right?
And
exactly.
Margolin, just to let you know, you mentioned any letters coming in from neighbors would have had to be current for this application. And just to let you know, if you're not aware already, that there were letters that came in, and they are out in the record.
There are several letters, and we've looked at them all, and I've addressed the gist of their comments already. Thank you, Ms. Berger.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Terry, would you like to close us out, please?
Yeah. It's in the application of 216 Old Montauk Highway Llc at 216 Old Montauk Highway, tax map 300-087-03-12.4, and make a motion to close the public hearing, to leave the written record open for a period of 2 weeks after the transcript of this hearing is posted to the website.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur. Okay. Thank you very much. Martin and Eleni, thank you for your work on this. And Terry, have a good evening. Okay. We will move on now to our next public hearing of the evening. The applicant is Hampton Waters Property Association. The lot size and location is 82,846 square feet at Island Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-93-3-2.1. Description: to hand cut and clear a trail install a non-permanent 144 square foot kayak rack, on a parcel of land containing wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20. The zoning district here is a B residence, AE flood zone elevation 6. The secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
It's here somewhere. Hang on just a second.
It sounds like you might be getting overmodulated again. Let's see, Nancy, and try it again. Let's see.
Since I don't want to signing out and signing back in. You hear me?
Just
No.
barely. Maybe if you
Order.
could tell us if it's in order, and then we can move on while you kind of reboot. But unfortunately, we can. We'll give you a minute to get it organized. Let us know.
We don't have that document we need. Kyle, can you read in what the affidavit of service is from the file?
Great. Okay, Kyle, you're going to read that in, please. I believe I heard that.
Let me just grab it here.
But Kyle, just for the heck of it, maybe I'll swear you in because you're speaking. If you please, you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Kyle. Go ahead, please. Good evening.
I have an affidavit here that the mailing and the posting, the mailing was done on the 21st of January and the posting was done on the 19th.
Work appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you, Nancy Lynn. Let's see, Nancy Lynn, should we, while you reboot, we'll do the field report? Is that okay?
That's fine. No problem.
Great, okay. Okay, so this is in board member Brenneman's East Hampton district. If you would, Tim, please.
Sure. Members, I visited the property on Sunday. It was properly posted. You can see that I've picked up the sign and leaned it against the tree. I think we also got photos in our file from maybe just today with a letter from the applicant indicating that the sign had gone down because of the storm and was replaced. But it was clearly noticed. Next slide. So this is on Island Road at the end in the Hampton Waters section of East Hampton. And you can see on the survey the parking lot. And so you can see that you can fit probably 2.5 vehicles into this parking lot. And I wanted to give that perspective on one of my first shots. Next photo. Now I've scanned same area to the left. That is the corner of the neighboring property where there is encroachment on this property. You can see the split rail fence that's noted on our surveys. And then it was really hard for me, based on the information I had in my file, to know exactly where these racks were going to be placed. So I don't have a close-up. I didn't really see that until either yesterday or today when that started hitting our mailbox. So I was out there over the weekend. So this is the best I have on that, but perhaps Michael has a survey and or a photo at the end of this that he can more clearly show the exact locale. Next photo. So now I've walked back to the end of that first area, and this is the walkway back to the beach. You can see that walkway, the trail, it's labeled on the survey. Next photo. So I've walked to the end, just a beautiful setting, of course, looking out over the water. And then I'm going to rotate back toward the inland side here. And there you can see evidence of all the watercraft that is sort of strewn about along the beach. And I think I took another photo of additional perspective. So really quite a lot of debris that's out there. that presumably would all be placed in the racks that are being proposed. There's also a comment somewhere along the line about there being some kind of management plan associated with how this area is policed from this point forward. I think that after looking at the area is a really important component of this entire application as well. And next photo. So now I've walked back out to the beginning of the property and that really right in front of the parking area. And I've just pointed my camera to the right side because that's the wetland area. And the kayak racks are proposed to be out of jurisdiction from the wetlands, but I just wanted the board members to see quite a substantial natural area and wetland there that we can see just to the right. And that concludes my report. So could I ask, are there any questions of me associated with that?
No.
Tim, can I ask, at this point, it's now February, you were there the last days of January, about how many boats are still on the beach, haven't been collected, haven't been taken out?
I would say 15 plus.
Yeah. So in theory, they were going to be wintering over there if nobody's taken them by now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Any other questions, board for Tim, board members?
How, that trail, how wide is that trail? Is that about 3 feet, 4 feet? The path down to the water?
Yeah, I would say closer to 4. It's a very comfortable distance, you know, that you can walk down.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Do we have the applicant or an agent for the applicant here?
Yes, I'm the applicant.
Oh, there you are, John. Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening. John, could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I can. My name is John O'Rourke. I am at 58 Oyster Shores Road, East Hampton.
Okay, great. Are you an attorney, John?
I'm not. I need to be sworn.
Okay. If you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Good evening, and go ahead, please.
Good evening, Chairman Whalen and Chairman Whelan. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have a few words to say, a few comments. Some are responses to letters that I've from other residents of this community that I've been privy to. And it's rather short. It should take maybe 2 minutes at the most.
Sure.
I am the elected president of our association. I represent 208 resident properties in our community. A few points that I'd like to make are, the first is the specific area that you were just talking about of the kayak rack placement. I mean, I understand that this is a application for clearing, a minimal clearing, but going forward and looking at the future, that if we can put a kayak rack there, we would like to. The specific area to be cleared is pinpointed on a survey map of a detail of a survey map, if you will, from Saskis, which I sent. Yes, thank you. That's it. The placement of the racks are these 3 boxes with X's in them. Each of those boxes is to scale and is 6 feet by 8 feet. These boxes represent the 144 square feet kayak rack divided into 3 sections. so as to minimize the amount of clearing necessary. Our thinking is that if we try to install 144 square foot rack, more clearing would be necessary. And by strategically placing these 3 divided sections, we can place them in such a way as to disturb as little brush and vines and small trees as possible. This area in question already has somewhat of a natural clearing. The gentleman who took pictures of this area, there is a fence there with X's on it, as you can see, right where this curve comes in.
Yeah, we see it. We see it.
I'm not sure whether you saw into that area or how well you could see into that area. But that's where there's a sort of natural openness, if you will. This area was chosen by our board because it's just a short walk from the beach from there. It conforms to the setback rules, and it lends itself to minimal cutting down. There's a lot of invasive vines there, some small trees, maybe some branches of larger trees that could be taken down to accommodate this divided up kayak rack. But as I said, it's kind of it's a rather, there's an openness to that area in the trees. In the past years, I just want you to know that Hampton Waters, as an association and board, has worked with the town to develop a management plan for a number of town-owned properties in our community. One at 12 South Pond Road, and then 16, 18, and 20 Oyster Shores Road. This kind of collaboration with the town and the Nature Preserve Committee was successful both for our community and for the town, I hope. We have also encouraged in our community renaturalization of waterfront member lots and removal of old septic systems. We have advocated for their dedication of these community lots as preserves, and we have actively and successfully promoted town efforts such as memorial benches being placed at certain preserves on in our community for not only our members but all residents of East Hampton, because they're town-owned properties. In 2016, 4 years ago, our association at an annual meeting took a vote of the attending members, whether we should pursue this project or not. Of the 45 residents present at that meeting, there was an overwhelming majority who were in favor. Also, I'd like to tell you that in the past month, I personally took a survey of the whole community by email regarding this issue. And of the 54 residents who responded, the results so far, at least, are that 50 are in favor of this application, 4 were against, and 41 said they would be willing to walk to the Island Road site from their homes in Hampton Waters as opposed to driving there. So according to my survey so far, it's a 92.5% positive feedback for this effort.
I think we saw that. Could I interrupt for a second?
Of course.
Just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
I imagine you are, and appreciate that you are in the location of making these smaller racks, trying to not cut down. There might be some locust or whatever the trees, the more substantial trees are. First of all, is that correct that you are? That's why they are located as such?
Chairman Whelan, we placed them there because there was this natural openness to that area, and that and that the area conformed to the setback rules.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is,
I'm sorry.
what I'm getting at is it would have been, I mean, obviously we don't like to see, if this were approved, we'd like to see no trees taken down or as few as possible. And I'm just wondering if you had gone out in the field and put some stakes in for the surveyor to pick up, if you had walked in there and kind of done any kind of marking out, or if the surveyor just kind of dropped these in there.
No, actually, a member of our board placed these boxes with X's there, because we haven't specifically defined, we haven't staked it out yet. I mean, we were looking at it this way because we're trying to make an effort to minimize taking down as much organic matter as possible. So this is the general idea.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And it's it might be moved a couple of feet this way or that way, as long as it continues to conform. If there is a large tree in the area, we don't really want to take that down. I mean, we're trying to be as conscientious and respectful of the land here as possible. If it turns out that there is an area for a 144 square foot structure, or it's really considered a non-structure, I guess, then that's fine too. But it didn't look to us like there was. It felt like it should be broken up.
Yeah, okay, and I don't want to belabor the point, but we're on the same page. But what I'm getting at is if this board did approve this application, and all of our goals in improving it would be to disturb as little of the substantial vegetation that's there. It seems that we would want someone to stake these out as a proposed, someone walking in there and finding this, oh, this is a nice clear area here. We can put one here, we can put one there, we can put one there, and then have, I don't know if it's Saskis or whoever your surveyor is here, have them located. But let's move along. That could be another discussion.
Can I just have a clarification question too?
Yeah, go ahead, Roy.
On the notice, the public hearing notice, they're calling for a non-permanent 140 square foot kayak rack. What we're seeing is 3 racks.
Yes.
And one rack is probably 14 by 10 would be about 140 feet. So what's going on?
They're 48 square feet, Roy, he said, I believe. They're 6 by 8.
6 by 8?
Yes.
Yes. So it's 148 in total. Correct, John?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Chairman Whelan, we're happy to stake it out.
Okay,
we do a more specific.
Okay, we can come back to that. Let me ask you. Thank you. We can come back to that. Let me ask you, John, why we have you, and then we'll keep moving along. And you can always come back as the applicant at the end and comment, obviously. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of this? I see this driveway. Whether we know we have the lawn cleared onto this piece of property in the driveway. Is that an easement, or what's the history of the driveway that's encroaching there on the survey?
That is the adjacent neighbor.
No, I know that, but I'm asking kind of the legal. You're the president of the association. The legal implications of that encroachment.
We realized that there was encroachment about a year ago when we had Saskis do the most current survey. The encroachment has not been resolved as yet.
I'm just wondering, kind of, what is that ongoing? Does the association?
Yes, it's ongoing.
Okay. Yeah.
It hasn't been resolved, so I can't really, tell you one way or the other which way it will go.
Right. And as far as we're concerned, also it is clearing on this property, as is the lawn is clearing. So at some point, I think that should be that's going to have to be addressed in one way or another.
Yes.
Because the lawn and this driveway are clearing that were done by somebody else on your property, on this property. But
correct. Yes.
I imagine
agree.
so. Okay.
It should be rectified.
Okay, board members, any questions of John before we go to the planning department?
I have a couple of more paragraphs, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead. You can wrap it up
now, or
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, this area, the whole area in question is a common area that's owned by, as you know, it's owned by the association.
Yeah.
We look at it as a reserved area for our community. That's specifically designated to allow and encourage community interaction and to allow neighbors to enjoy and make use of this area. This is a vital asset to our association and the community. Not only is it an entrance to pathway to the beach for residents who do not live on the water, it's also on the right a pathway to a bulkhead where some people approach their boats. So it's the whole point of this effort is a community effort. It's for people in this community to enjoy this area. For members, just a minute. Oh, also, well, as far as the encroachment goes, members who bought this property, bought adjacent properties, were fully aware that the area was a community common area. So I don't know. I guess my point is the common area is about the entire community. There's one last point about parking and traffic on Island Road. I would suggest that approval of this application would not increase parking or traffic. In my recent survey, as I told you, about 41% of the resident responders to the survey reported that they would walk to the site from their homes in Hampton Waters. So with the minimal clearing that we intend and the potential of an environmentally friendly kayak rack, I think we can finally manage to have the existing 20-something kayak racks removed from the beach in that area and not encourage any more activity in that area than already exists. At last count, I think in November, there were 27 kayaks. I have a few pictures of that, which I didn't submit. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just ask you a quick question.
Sure.
I want to talk to Michael Delali, our planner, when he gets there. When we're looking at this aerial, it looks like the property where the kayaks, the portion of this communal property where the kayaks are not being stored, is obviously a much healthier vegetation. I'd like Michael to comment on that, and also maybe if we went back further into the aerials. So that's something I'm interested in. And my second point or question is, when you do have folks coming down parking, are those stones and they don't park on that lawn area? Is that correct? They stop.
The stones.
Right? Yeah, go ahead.
Were put there to obstruct anybody driving onto that land.
So where do they park? Do they just park where Tim did? You can get a couple of cars there, and then where?
Yes, you can get two. You can get two cars there. Not everybody comes all at the same time, or the same day. And I think having a kayak rack would get the existing kayak racks off the beach, and although we wouldn't be able to accommodate all the members that want to put their kayaks there, would have a revolving system or something like that to allow for 20 something or so, 27 perhaps, if they fit. So that's it. And like I said, as I said, a lot of members suggested they might walk if their kayaks were already there. You know, so I think that would alleviate any additional traffic.
Right. Okay, thank you, John. Let's move along now to the planning department. Michael, good evening, Michael. Delali, I'll swear you in. Michael, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Evening, board members. Mike Delali for the planning department. So the board may remember this application. It was originally presented, I believe, sometime over the summer and noticed in the fall as a possible administrative. The application, as the chairman read, is to hand cut and minimally clear on a parcel of land in the hopes to construct kayak racks to remove these kayaks from within the wetland on the marsh at the end of Island Road. The planning department feels that this application by far meets the Natural Resource Special Permit standards. In fact, I think if discussed for approval and if it ultimately approved, has the potential to have a significant benefit to the lot, to the environment. You can see here on the aerial, if I were to zoom in on the correct fashion, this area where the kayak racks are, or the kayaks are at the moment, and I believe I went out there last week and counted a total of 22 at the end of January here. They're still out there. They're out there washing around at every high tide, storm tides, storm surges, inhibiting the growth of vegetation. You can see it in a number of the photos that, this area where the kayaks are, just from them constantly going back and forth, you've got a little bit of spartina, some beach grass, really minimal shrubs. And even just to the other side of the path where the kayaks aren't currently being stored, you can see in the aerial here what appear to be shrubs and a more substantial buffer to the surface waters of 3 Mile Harbor. Vegetation, as the board knows, is our first line of defense in these coastal areas to help prevent damage from storms, excess flooding. So getting these kayaks out of here in a more upland location, meeting the 100-foot setback from both the surface waters here, as well as this wetland that runs across the property to the east, can have a huge benefit, to both the property, as viewed from the property, and as well as, viewing and seeing the property from the water. 3 Mile Harbor is a heavily utilized waterway within the town, both recreational and commercial endeavors. It's probably one of the busiest areas of town in terms of watercraft on a daily basis. So having a place to store them where they won't be susceptible to the tide, to the weather, in a conforming location with regard to setbacks, would really be a huge benefit. Like I said, the planning department has been there a number of times over the years, and each time we've kind of remarked on the number of small craft that have been there. Most of the time we're there is not during the high season, and it appears pretty regularly as we go through the aerials here that the craft are always there. It's 2016, 2013, 2010, 2007, 04, and 2001. There have always kind of been small craft being stored here, and as we felt when we presented this as a possible administrative, the planning department still feels that this is a good application, for the natural resource special permit in order to do the work. I don't think they have anything else.
Michael, while you think, can I jump in and ask you something? I'm going to go back to my trees. Are those mostly locust trees or substantial trees that we see in the?
It's a bit of a mix. Just from this picture, there looks to be some autumn olive, black cherry, cedars, possibly some, there's some shrub honeysuckle. There are more photos submitted by the applicant, kind of more from the interior.
Yeah.
And on some of those, you can see once you kind of get past, this kind of disturbed area along where the split rail is,
Right.
And into the interior, it really is a minimal understory, largely cedars and cherries on the interior, likely heavily deer browsed. There's not much of an understory, a little bit of cat briar that looks like it's been deer browsed in there, and really not a substantial habitat within this area.
And thank you. What I'm getting at is, and actually in Rick Whalen's with an A, in Rick's submission, there are more photos as well. And it's, as you say, there's not much of an understory. And what I'm getting at is, would you agree that the root structure of those existing substantial trees is a benefit, and that it would make sense to place, if these were approved, to place these structures whereby they would not have to cut those substantial trees that we see from the aerial here?
It definitely would be a benefit over, obviously over cutting them, to be able to leave them, be able to place them around the trees. There definitely, appears to be, based on the photographs submitted by the applicant as well as a couple of other sources, there definitely appear to be areas within that potential area that would not require a substantial amount of clearing in order to place these racks in. The largest amount of clearing you're going to see is probably going to be kind of at that road edge or at that split rail fence edge, where you're kind of cutting the path from the split rail.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Okay, board members, any questions for Michael?
Yeah, I have a question. Michael, is there a conforming location on the property that would not require additional clearing?
Likely not. The property, as you can see from the aerial, is largely uncleared. The most of the clearing that's associated with this property is kind of within the road right away, within the road end here. The property is, it's a reserve area that was set aside for the use of the property owners within the subdivision. And it's largely untouched, going all the way back to 83, when we kind of have our first aerials. And I believe that was in an existing conditions memo that before. This is in 83. You can see the trail there, and that existing clearing at that road end was there at that time. So as I said, a lot of that is not on the applicant's property.
Can you go back one more time on that one, the last one, the 83? So that's the existing house and the existing pool of the adjacent neighbor, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and it looks like they have a different driveway back then.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, that was part of the encroachment, that they, that's where they encroached. They changed their driveway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This driveway looks like it probably did not encroach. Perhaps.
Correct. I wasn't here then, but yes, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I just noticed that. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Any other questions, board members, before we open it up to the public? Okay, let's do that then. Mike at LTV, if you please.
Yes, Chair.
I think we have some callers.
Yes, we have a handful of callers on hold. I'll unmute the first caller I see with the last 4 digits are 6013. I'll unmute that caller right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, great. Okay. My name is Guido Allen. I'm a member of the association because I live on Springwood Lane, which is in the 3rd section of Hampton Waters, so on the other side of Springy Banks Road. So I'm in the section that does not have direct water access.
Okay.
That's why it was
hold
so
on.
important.
Sir, hold on. Let me interrupt you. first of all, we need your name and make sure we get it clearly and spell it and your exact address, please. And then I'm going to swear you in
Sure.
unless you're.
Sure. My name is Guido Auen, Guido, last name Auen, Auen. And the exact address is 22 Springwood Lane in East Hampton.
Right. And we have a lengthy, just for the record, we have a lengthy submission. I mean, I'm not saying it's too late. You know, no, I beg your pardon, but we have a submission from you that we have all read, just so you know. So, you know, don't feel compelled to reread what you submitted because we already have that. But are you an attorney? If not, I'll swear you in.
Swear me in.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to call in and express our support for this application. As I mentioned, I'm in the third section here, so on the other side of Springy Road, where this section of Hampton Waters does not have direct access to the water like Oyster Shores. So the more important it was for us when we bought and actively actually thought out this association to have water access. So the water access that Islands Road provides to the association was one of the real perks and very important in our decision to actually settle here, buy here, and make this our home. We're avid kayakers, and it would be very important to us to actually have a place to store kayaks, because as of right now, every time we have a tandem kayak, we need to, or we would like to actually use it, we have to take it down by car just because of its size and weight. So actually having a rack would really enable us to bicycle there, which is nice in the summer anyway, walk there and make use of that, and thereby I think actually decrease traffic. And I just also wanted to note that from what I understood from the gentleman, John O'Rourke, before, who spoke on behalf of the association, he had initially indicated that from this little questionnaire or survey or poll he conducted, almost 92% or almost 93% of the people who responded said they would walk. I think later on in a later sentence, he mentioned something of 41% of the people would be walking, but I think that was maybe just an oversight. I think he meant 41 people. So I don't know if you look back in the records, I think it was 90% or something that were in favor of actually walking there and not using their cars anymore, and not just 40-something%, as I think might have slipped in there, if I understood that correctly. 41 people, not percent, correct. So essentially almost everybody agreed to walk, yeah. So what I wanted to say is also that we have tried to store kayaks in adjacent neighborhoods. There's Town Trustee, I think, racks on Louse Point, etc. And they're always essentially super busy and always completely occupied, which is understandable because I think there's just not, for the demand, there's not enough availability. So the association at one of the meetings actually approved to move forward with our own kayak racks because we have this area that really lends itself to that. And in fact, we even had individual members who came forward and said, you know, we would actually even donate and pay for these racks. So it seems that there's really an overwhelming support of these racks, which also means that if the members from our own community could store their kayaks on our own common areas, it would be less of the demand on the, I guess, Town Trustee kayak racks in the neighborhoods adjacent. So that means that even more town East Hampton residents would have space in those kayak racks, because I think if we have the possibility to have a rack here locally for the people, it would really be a benefit to the community, and as I mentioned, was very important to us when we bought here. The other thing is when I read the
can we limit public comments?
Yeah, we really have to. So we really have to shut you up. We have many callers, and John O'Rourke has given 10 minutes, and you're given 3, and I think you've used it. And we understand your point. Okay, so I'm going to cut you off there. Okay.
Could I just make one? Could I just make one more point, please?
Very quickly.
Okay, because what it seems that when I read the submissions also, and since you were mentioning this encroachment on our area, it seems that once one of these letters stood out to me because it was written on behalf of a lawyer, which kind of felt odd to me in a small community where everybody knows each other and we're all really on good terms. And so I just, I just Googled the name because I didn't really know the name, and it was the Marchelier family. And when I Googled them, I Googled Patrick de Marchelier, it became maybe more clear what the real reason is for that increased need of privacy or exclusiveness that they're seeking. I mean, the board can just do their own research and Google Patrick de Marchelier, and we'll probably see
And we know where
surprised.
that, okay,
what
thank
comes
you.
up.
We know, thank you. That's
So
it, I'm cutting you
I just
off.
think it's kind of a little.
Okay, we know where that property is. Thank you very much. Please, you're, that's it. I'm cutting you off. Do we have another caller,
Yes.
LTV?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a handful. I will unmute the next caller. The last four digits are 6608. I'm unmuting now.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Richard Whalen speaking.
Hey, good evening, Richard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Good
can.
evening,
Go
John.
ahead, Richard.
Okay, Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer PLLC, 532 Montauk Highway, Amagansett. I represent Patrick and Marie DeMarchelier. They own 19 Island Road. That is directly adjacent to the location of these proposed kayak racks. I say kayak racks because I just learned tonight that apparently it's not one rack that's being proposed, but several. So let me just start by saying this. I've submitted a letter with today's date. I also submitted a letter on Friday. I think your hearing notice is defective. Clearing within 150 feet of wetlands requires a natural resources special permit. There is no description in the hearing notice of the clearing. There is no description of the extent of the clearing that is to go with this project. And by the way, and you can see this in the photographs that I submitted, the area in question is very well vegetated. Michael's correct. There's not much understory, but it's very thick, and it provides a good deal of screening to the DeMarchelier house from any activity that goes on the subject property. So, clearing is something that should have been noticed in the hearing. Frankly, the idea that there are now 3 kayak racks instead of 1 should also have been noticed for the hearing. So I believe that your hearing notice was defective. I'm going to still speak to the substance of the application, and very briefly, the zoning board has previously held in other applications, at least one of which I was involved in, which was the Joseph Farrell application on Agnew Avenue in Montauk, that all of the special permit standards in the code apply to NRSPs. And when you look at the NRSP standards, some of the requirements in the code include the following. A proposed use must not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of adjacent properties. A proposed use has to be compatible with its surroundings and with the character of the neighborhood and the community in general. And finally, adequate buffer yards and screening must be provided to protect adjacent properties and land uses from possible detrimental impacts of a proposed use. This is a kayak rack, or now kayak racks, that are being proposed directly adjacent to somebody's home. There's no fence separating the DeMarchelier property or house or their driveway from whatever goes on the Hampton Waters property. Though that rack or these racks are going to be placed in proximity to their house, to their driveway, area around the rack will be cleared. That's where most of the activity will go on. To me, this is something that is completely nonsensical in a residential area and is unsuitable to be put near somebody's house. This is not a passive use. People can come and use the kayak racks at any time of the day. I suppose potentially at night. It can be noisy. I own a kayak myself. Putting kayaks in and out of racks can be noisy. You can have, conversation with people that are there. This could take place at the crack of dawn. It could take place at 6 o'clock in the morning. There is an alternative site for the kayaks, which I'm very surprised was not discussed. Apparently, the board is treating the racks as though they are structures subject to wetland setbacks. They are actually coastal structures as defined in the code. The code definition of a coastal structure is a fabrication designed to give access to or through or permit work on or facilitate the use of any water body. Clearly, kayak racks being used to store small watercraft facilitate the use of waterways. It's a coastal structure. You don't have to be 100 feet from the wetlands. The town has kayak racks itself that it maintains at Hands Creek, at Girard Drive, and on Louse Point. All of those kayak racks actually are on the beach itself. I'm not going to disagree at all with the planning department that it is not ideal to have the kayak racks on the beach, and certainly not ideal to have them scattered around in beach vegetation. But what you could do is you could put kayak racks directly along the pathway, which is upland. I checked it out myself. It's black cherry and bayberry and cedar trees. These kayak racks can be located right along the existing access path to the waterway. They would not be bothering my client, and they would be convenient for the users of the kayaks who could take them directly down to the beach on the same path that they're going to travel anyway and put them in the water and take them out of the water. That's our position. I would ask that you read my letter. It's not an activity that is suitable in close proximity to somebody's home. And I think it's very clear that, as currently proposed, this does not meet the Natural Resources Special Permit standards. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Board members, any questions?
I'd just like to ask Mr. Whalen if your client is a member of the Hampton Waters Homeowners Association, Property Owners Association.
I do not know if they belong to the association.
I can answer that for you if you'd like.
Sure, please do, John.
Yes, they are. They're not in good standing because they haven't paid dues this past year in 2020. But yes, they have in the past paid dues. Yes, they are members.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
any
John.
other questions for Rick, board members? Okay, thank you, Rick. Mike, would you let in the next caller, please?
Yes, Chair. The next caller I'll let in has the last 4 digits of their phone is 3750. I'll unmute that caller right now.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Blaustein. I'm an attorney. I represent Mr. Vito Costanza, who lives at 12 Island Road. He's asked me to appear on his behalf tonight. Objection to the application.
Okay, thank you. What is your address, sir?
1325 Franklin Avenue, Suite 235, Garden City, New York.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, so we all know, where is your client's house? I'm just curious in relation to this parcel.
He's at 12 Island Road, across the street, I believe, 2 or 3 houses down.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, my client asked me to review this and appear for him as he's objecting to the application. He really believes that it's totally unfair to have this kayak rack on top of someone's property line. Besides the eyesore that it's going to appear on the street, he believes it's also going to create excess noise and additional traffic which will pass by his house, and he has safety concerns of the additional traffic that's going to pass by. He feels that there are probably alternate sites that can be utilized to do this, and he feels that it's really not in the community's best interest to have the rack on an adjacent property line.
Okay. I'm just curious, if you have 25 boats being used by members of the association, no matter where the boats are, I imagine those 25 people are still going to be coming, correct?
I would assume so, but the racks will be at a location at the end of the block. He believes that there'll be more people congregating around the property line, bypassing his house.
But the same 25 people would theoretically go to use their boats no matter where the boats are. Correct? Anyway, just making a point, just an observation.
What the access points are.
Okay.
He feels that it's not in the best interest of the community.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate your participation.
Your client also is not directly adjacent to this property, correct?
He's across the street. He's at number 12, which is, I believe, 2 or 3 houses on the opposite side.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your participation. LTV, do we have another caller?
Yes, we do. The next caller I have is the last four digits are 9281. I'll unmute that caller now.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Klein. My wife and I own the property at 14 Island Road, which is approximately 200 feet away from the proposed kayak site route.
Let me stop you, sir. I'm sorry. Hold on, sir. We've got to take care of some things here.
Yes.
First of all, if you could spell your name for the record, and as well, let me know if you are an attorney or not, because if you are not, so we need your name, the spelling, the address for the record, and then I will swear you in if you are not an attorney.
The last name is Klein, K-L-E-I-N.
Mm-hmm.
First name is Donald.
Yep.
I am not an attorney. We own 14 Island Road.
Okay, I think we see that. I think Eleni might have, Michael, pardon me, Michael. Okay, we see your property. Thank you. Okay, raise your right hand, please. And, hold on, sir. I'm swearing you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, continue, please.
Okay, I had previously submitted a letter in opposition to this project and won't repeat anything that's in that letter since the board has reviewed it.
Yes.
I have listened to Richard Whalen and agree with everything he said, but would like to emphasize certain items. First of all, there is very restricted parking in this area. The area is on a very narrow dead-end street. Usually when people park at the end of the street, instead of being able to make a U-turn to leave, they have to pull into private driveways to turn around. The street is commonly used by children from ages 3 to 18 who are in bicycling, playing basketball, and Island Road has a curve that leads to the dead end. So until you've actually made the curve to bring you down the last 300 feet of the road, you don't know what obstructions you're going to be seeing. I have listened to the other people who have called in. I am surprised that Mr. Oren, who called earlier, forgot to mention that he is a treasurer of the association's board and might have an interest in how this decision is made. It appears to me, from what I've read from the planning department and the analysis report, that Planning and Natural Resources has pretty much rubber stamped this because of the technical measurements involved and the environmental considerations. But there's much more that the board has to consider than simply measurements. The board's responsibility is also to preserve the flavor and nature of the local community.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here now. Sir, hold on, sir. You've already had twice the time for comments. So the record will be open. You're certainly welcome to submit more of your comments in writing, but otherwise I'm going to have to cut you off. Okay. We understand what our duty is here. We don't need you to go over that right now, but you can submit whatever you'd like, as long as you want in writing for the official record. Okay. Go ahead. If you have one more sentence or something. Sorry?
Did you interpret my statement as being aggressive or insulting?
No, not whatsoever.
Wasn't meant to be.
No, sir, not at all, not at all. I just didn't want you to go through the whole standards of what this board or the duties are. But I think we understand your point. Go ahead.
I doubt that if you haven't allowed me to express it, but please get on to the next caller.
Yeah, my point is not, I have to cut you off because of time and because of our procedures, but you can write and we will read whatever you wish to present. You know, whether you say it or read it, when it's in the record, we read it and we reread it, okay? Just so you know, okay?
Chairman,
So
we
please
do
feel
have
free.
in the record 2 copies of Mr. Klein's letter in opposition. They were, it was, actually, there's 1 copy, sorry, from July 31st, 2020, and it was received by the board and is part of the record.
Yes, and I've read that. Thank you, Nancy Lynn. Okay, thank you, Mr. Klein. We appreciate your participation, but we have to be fair because we cut other people off too. We have a full agenda and a lot to get to this evening. So thank you very much. LTV, do we have anyone else calling in?
Yes, I see 2 more, at least 2 more. I'm going to unmute the next caller. The last 4 digits are 8663. I'll unmute now.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Trevor Darrell, appearing on behalf of Jonathan Worth, who's at 18 Island Road.
Okay, thanks,
Fleming
Trevor.
Darrell,
Just give us your
PLLC.
address.
Sure.
Thanks, Trevor. Just give us your address. We know.
Gingerbread Lane. Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trevor.
Gingerbread Lane, East Hampton. Yes. So I am also appearing on behalf of Jonathan Worth, who is in opposition of the application. I don't want to repeat what was already put forward by a lot of the objectants, but specific, Jonathan's property is the one that is the immediate adjacent property owner to the south and east of the property, right where the driveway enters the roadway, where the car is parked, where you saw in the photographs. That's his driveway entrance right there.
Yeah, thank you.
And we don't disagree with the planning department's position that the kayaks that are on the beach should be removed. That's really, I think, an enforcement issue and can be otherwise curtailed by enforcing by either the trustees or the town code enforcement or Marine Patrol, citing the people who are placing the kayaks there. The position that because there's 25, 22 kayaks there currently now, that somehow that they are from the ownership of the association, we have no way of knowing that. So I think the idea that this property is going to be reserved just for kayaks for use of the homeowner association, we don't have a way to control that either. And the question that came to mind when I went and walked the property or when I looked at the application and the survey, they don't show where the new proposed clearing is going to be to get from the racks to the pathway, at least not that I saw. So the pathway that I walked is probably 2.5 feet wide. But getting from the racks to there, how much additional clearing is going to be required to get to the existing pathway? I think that's important for the board to know. And that what's the ground surface going to be? Are they proposing any sort of, hard structure, wooden walks, something to cover the ground? Is it just going to be sand and dirt and, beach grass? And I guess the last question, that the board should consider when deciding this is there's an existing gate and fence, but I didn't see any permits for those structures to be existing on the property as they sit there today. So I was just wondering if the planning department had any, thoughts on, bringing that into this application or requiring the board to, have them amend the application to include those structures.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Trevor.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Okay, LTV, any more, Mike?
Yes, I'll go to the next caller I see here with the last 4 digits are 5672. Unmuting now.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Edward, and it's Bisso, B-I-S-S-O. I'm at 16 Island Road, Hampton Waters. My family and I have been here for over 50 years.
Okay, thank you for that. Before you get going, hold on, sir. Are you an attorney? Otherwise, I have to swear you in.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay, if you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm opposed to the kayak rack, and I think some of the reasons were just recently conveyed to you. It's a narrow road. It's a dead-end street. Again, I've been here for well over 50 years. I've seen a lot of traffic down at the end of the road. And usually it's for a day or for the fireworks, and it's a one-time during the year. You can't make U-turns. You have to back into people's driveways. I've been forced to put up a sign to please do not block my driveway occasionally. Not all the time, but it does happen. And I've seen mailboxes knocked down. And again, there is children that are now, this community is starting to grow again. And there's young children that do play in this area. And traffic's going to happen. It's inevitable. I do fear occasionally when it gets crowded down at the corner here for fire trucks and ambulances. If they cannot make it down the block in a timely fashion. That's my grievance with this. And pretty much that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you for participating. We appreciate it. LTV, do we have another caller?
Yes, we do. I'll unmute the next caller. The last four digits are 2317. Unmuting now.
Hello.
Yes, good evening. If you could give us could you give us your name and spell it properly and your address, and let me know if you're an attorney or not. Otherwise, I have to swear you in, please.
This is David Stiles. My address is 4 Albertine Lane, East Hampton. I'm in Hampton Waters. Might be the oldest member of Hampton Waters, but anyhow, I've been here a long time, since 1962, and I have one small point. I am not an attorney.
Okay, let me swear you in, and hold on. Before you get going, I have to swear you in, and then is your name Stiles spelled?
That's right.
Correct. Great. David, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, good evening. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I think it's really very simple. I think everybody's missing the whole point here. We have a kayak, and we put it on top of the car, we take it down there, and we drag it from the parking lot across that path to the water. It's a real drag in both senses of the word. And if you put a kayak rack by where you plan to, everyone's going to have to drag their kayak. It takes considerable effort, especially for me. I'm 87 years old, to drag it to the beach and then bring it back. So I'm suggesting that this is really just the wrong thing to do. It's going to inconvenience everybody, and who wants to drag a kayak at least 3 minutes across and ruin perhaps the bottom of their kayak? Well, that's not really true, but it doesn't do the kayaks any good. And I just want to make that point. That's my only thing I want to say.
Okay, well, thank you for participating. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Have a good evening. Have a good evening. Mike, anyone else at LTV? Anyone else on the line?
No, Chair. There are no callers left pertaining to this.
Okay. All right. John O'Rourke, let me ask you one quick question. The folks who use these kayaks or with a rack, if this were approved, you mentioned, would you have a system whereby you know they are members of your association and other folks from out of your association would not be using them?
Yes, that is our intent. In fact, we have a plan to number the spaces, limit them to only Hampton Waters members in good standing, so we know who each kayak belongs to. There would also be a seasonal charge, a nominal charge to put your kayak rack there.
Right.
Since we can't build a kayak rack large enough to accommodate the need that we have, you know, we would have a rotating system or some sort of lottery to accommodate for a turnover yearly or every other year, something like that.
Mhm.
Yes. So yes, some of the kayaks on the beach now, we have no idea who they belong to. I assume that a lot of them are Hampton Waters residents, but a number of them could be from anywhere and just left there, you know. So so having them numbered, pay a fee, etc., be members of Hampton Waters would rectify some of that.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of Mr. O'Rourke?
Of course, of course.
Mr. O'Rourke, I appreciate the efforts you're making here, but you haven't really clearly defined, as our chairman has suggested, the exact location nor the capacity. And I think that's necessary for us to make a ruling to have a better idea of just what we're talking about.
We're happy to do that. I can submit that after this meeting. I'm happy to have it staked out, and the survey, remarked so you know exactly where it is.
Yeah, and additionally, I'm wondering what plan you might have in place for the future for policing this, because those people on the racks are there and you have control of them.
Yes.
It's going to keep us from seeing an additional dozen kayaks down on the surf or down on the water's edge again, the way it was before, because one of the concerns here is to eliminate that destruction that goes on in natural vegetation.
Yes.
So do you have something,
I have contact information for all of our members. I can inform them by email that kayak racks on the beach are not allowed, are against code. And if they're not removed, they will be taken away by, I guess, code enforcement, whatever process the town has of doing that.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing, Ed. I appreciate that, because I mean, obviously, if these racks are there, the goal is to see zero kayaks.
Exactly. For us too.
And as an association, it would seem that you would have the ability to police that yourself.
One of our board members,
code enforcement. Go ahead.
One of our board members would be in charge of policing that and receiving the payments for spaces and so forth, and keeping a contact list of all the people who put their racks there, or put their kayaks there.
Right.
And a description of the kayak and, blah, blah, blah. So yes, it's not just an open kayak where anybody can put their open rack where anybody can put their kayak. It would be limited to Hampton Waters residents only.
I highly suggest that, and we can leave the written record open, I highly suggest that you have the exact locations, the clearing delineated, the paths to these. If you want to flag some of the more important trees on the survey, that would probably be helpful, the ones that you intend on keeping or something. But this really is, as some people, I think we all agree, this is really not up to our standards. It would be very hard for Nancy Lynn Thiel to write up this determination when it's so kind of wishy-washy. And so I think you understand what needs to be done.
I do. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I can do that and submit it.
Okay.
Will I have a chance to respond to a few other things briefly?
Well, this has gone on very long. Maybe you can just wrap very, very quickly, because I think we've on your side.
Let me just say this. Most of the people against this effort are on Island Road. And since, I don't know, to me, this is a community property and it's to be used as such. So I think it's rather selfish in a way that members of one small street can define what 200 other members may wish for and consider an amenity. So I just like to bring that forward. I seriously do not think that since there are at the high point of last summer, there were 27 kayaks on the beach. So I don't think we're encouraging any more use of this area. The kayak racks, even if we do divide them into 3, will not accommodate 27. Maybe just under that, but not any more than that.
So you would be limiting your kayaks to those that would fit on the 3 racks. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't think noise-wise it would create any other potential noise. I mean, these are arguments that to me don't carry a lot of water.
Okay, we have to move on, John, but I'll say this too as well. No, let me finish though.
Oh, sure.
As well, please submit a schematic, or unless I've missed something, some image of what these racks look like, how big they are, their dimensions and height, what the capacity of each is. We want to have a clean record here, as we have a lot of people that are interested in this. Okay, I think you understand that. We want to know what you're doing exactly. Okay,
that's fine.
Like the way you almost like a plan and elevation. We want to know exactly what's being built here, not that all of a sudden some 16-foot tower goes in there or something.
If we
facetious, but
I can answer you right now. The plan is that they are the 3 smaller sections, which total 144.
No, we know that, but give us a drawing. Give us a drawing.
High, 8 feet long.
Yeah, give us a drawing that shows what they look like and the capacity of each. And okay, let's leave it at that.
Excuse
Tim,
me, Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know from my perspective, there are 2 new callers that have just come in. Is that something we could still take?
I guess so. I guess we have to. Go ahead, Mike, and maybe they're for the next hearing, though.
Perhaps, yes, but just I'm going to unmute the first
one.
Yeah,
please do. Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
The last 4 digits are 3754. Unmuted now.
Hi, this is Jean Stiles calling.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I live on Albertines Lane, not on Island Road, and I am against the kayak wreck for all the reasons that have been.
Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on, please. I don't know if it's your husband or somebody just called in. Was that the same address? No, we know that.
Yes.
Okay, so we need your address.
Different.
No, you're allowed to comment. I'm just saying I have to swear you in. Excuse me. I have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
Okay.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Okay. Go ahead, please.
I'm against the kayak wreck for the same reasons that have been projected in this meeting. But there's a couple of things that weren't really stressed so much. One is that it is wetlands, of course, and it's always been a very beautiful, pristine area, which people enjoy. Without kayak wrecks, they go down there, they go swimming, they walk, they use the property as a one of the places that we want to enjoy in East Hampton that isn't filled with cars and crowded people. It's not someone referred to it as a parking lot down there. It's not a parking lot. It's just a dead end. It's very narrow. And there is no parking there, really. I mean, at most 2 cars. But the thing that is mystifying is when you say that all of these kayaks on the beach, maybe 22 kayaks, would then be in the kayak wreck, I personally very strongly doubt if any of those kayaks belong to Hampton Waters members. If they did, they would have heard in the meeting how upsetting it is to the board that they're there. And I think anything that is built, it's not going to change those kayaks down there at all. There's going to be the same kayaks that have been there, many of them never used. They've just been left
that would
there.
be.
And I think that's a separate issue.
Well, if I could interrupt, the point that we've been discussing, if I could interrupt, the point is that the idea is to get these off the beach and to the association polices them, and if there's any issues, code enforcement is called in. That's the whole. That's what we've been discussing.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I mean, they can do the code enforcement without Hampton Motors. Isn't that a town issue? If they're not allowed to be there, isn't the town allowed to take them away?
Well, no, they don't just, I don't know, I don't know how that procedure works exactly, so I can't really answer that question. But the idea is that
Right.
if Mr. O'Rourke were calling in saying there's 4 kayaks, we don't know whose they are, where they are, then the trustees and code enforcement would get involved. That's okay.
Yeah, I know. I doubt if they belong to Hampton Motors members. I would say 3/4 of them don't. So I think that's kind of a separate issue. You know,
Well, hopefully it's not separate, and hopefully we can get it taken care of.
But,
Okay.
you know, that's just one thing that kind of mystified me, but also the fact that, you know, changing the use of a beautiful piece of property that people that can use and walk on and go, it's access to our little beach, and, you know, it's just a beautiful, pristine area. So I think making it into something that is attracting people could become a problem that people aren't foreseeing.
Okay,
Not
I'm not
just
going to
Hampton Waters.
argue.
People from all over could be attracted.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your comments are on the record. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Michael,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Mike, anyone else there?
Yes, there's one more caller. The last 4 digits are 1842. I'll unmute right now.
Hey guys, oh, so sorry I have to go so late again this week. Thomas Muse here, 35 Mulford Lane. But I'm on for the, I think the next hearing, or I missed the Lloyd. I don't know. I've been trying to get
Yeah,
in
you're
touch,
for the
so-
next, all right, Tom, you're on for the next meeting. Okay, you can, okay, thanks, Tom. You're on for the next meeting. Okay, Tim, unless you have any comments or questions, you want to close this out, please?
For, in the matter of Hampton Waters Property Owners Association, Island Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-93-3-2.1. I make a motion to close the public hearing and to keep the written record open for 2 weeks after the transcripts are posted to the town website.
Second.
I concur.
Terry? Terry there?
Terry, you're muted.
Do we lose Terry?
Yeah, Terry thought she got the second, but she was on mute, so I concur.
Okay, thanks, Terry. I concur as well. Okay, thanks, Tim. Thank Michael Delalio and all of those who have participated. Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank you.
we will move on to our final public hearing this evening. And that is, I will read that in. This is regarding pressure equalization modules. This is continued hearing from January 26, 2021. Council, the 4 applicants, can I read off the 4 addresses and then read in the same information?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So I'll read in the first application name, and then I will.
Transcripts are posted to the town website.
Somebody has their
Yeah, TV's on.
TV
Somebody
on.
has a
You have to
TV
turn
on.
that off.
Yeah, please shut your TV off.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Okay, the first, so I'll read this in. One of the first applicant here of the 4 is Douglas Lloyd, and the lot size and location is 5.21 acres at 611 Shore Road, Amagansett, tax map number 300-106-2-35.3. The description is to install a series of pressure equalization modules, PEM is the acronym here, on the beach to reduce the rate of beach erosion. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 of the town code. The zoning district is A2 residence, VE flood zone, AE flood zone elevation 10, and the secret class is unlisted. And before I ask council about affidavit and service and posting, I'm going to list off the other 3. The next is Chris Anderson, and that address is 619 Shore Road, Bayview at Napeague, Lot 2, tax map number 300-106-2-39.2. The description, the relief sought, the zoning, and the secret are the same. The third is Demelis Marin, at 621 Shore Road, Bayview at Napeague, Lot 3, Amagansett, tax map number 300-106-2-39.3. His parcel is 5.34 acres. And the description, relief sought, and zoning district and secret class are the same. The fourth is 632 Shore Road Realty, LLC. This is 5.5 acres at 623 Shore Road, Bayview at Napeague, Lot 1, in Amagansett, tax map number 300-106-2-39.4. The same description, relief sought, zoning district, and secret as the others. Mr. Anderson's, by the way, is 5.65 acres total at 619 Shore Road, in case I neglected to mention that. Okay, this is in my Amagansett district. I have a field report this week, and Brian Frank, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town, is going to assist in that, and this is Brian's application as well. If you would, thank you, Brian. Okay, so I was down there this afternoon. You can see there was some heavy tides here. This is the end of Mulford Lane. We all know the property on the left very well. We know Mulford Lane very well. And you can just see that this went up and there were puddles probably 100 yards up the road, if not more. I took this shot. You can go to the next one, Brian, please. There's, just to give you a sense of where the tide was at this time, coming up against the rocks there. There was no posting whatsoever. If you go to the next, please, Brian. No posting. Here's where we were hoping it would be. Now, again, this may have been, and Mr. Anderson may be able to tell us that it was clearly posted last week. But there was no posting here. And just for the record, I also, you'll see I went up the beach and back, and I did drive all the way around, came in Old Lazy Point Road. I even went through the Merrill Road there, back out to the house that you see on the upper left of the screen. And there was no posting, but considering the winds and that this is held over, that's certainly understandable. Next slide, please, Brian. Okay, now I'm starting on the beach. Again, you see, get a sense of how the beach was really beaten up the last couple of days. And these are the three houses. The Lloyd residence is on the right there. And I'm not, and then the other two residences, and the third one is a foundation. Next, please, Brian. I go all the way up the beach here, so we'll move along. Now I just turn to the right to look at the Lloyd residence, give you a sense of the setback there and the vegetation there. Next, please, Brian. This is the next residence here. I took a photo. Again, you see how everything's been freshly kind of beaten back, the vegetation there, by the wind and the water. Next, please, Brian. I just spun around to shoot that again. This one is quite close to, I don't know if this is Mr. Anderson's house, perhaps it would be. Let's see, 611, 619, I believe it. And next slide, please, Brian. This is a third residence here, straight on view of that. And you see the bank, how it's freshly kind of carved away by the waves, and I have more slides of that sort of thing. Next, Brian, please. Here, I was found a shot of, this would be the 632 Shore Road Realty, where you see the foundation in the distance. Next, please, Brian. Now I'm coming up, this is in front of 632 Shore Road Realty property. Just to give you a sense of the beach right there, and what's going on there now. Next, please, Brian. I came all the way up to that point just to show you how it's freshly, how that's been carved away. You can see the sand was literally falling down probably in the last, 12, 18 hours or something like that. There was like no moisture on it. Next shot, Brian, please. And then I just turned around back here. This is looking back at the beach again, just to give you kind of the quality and the distance between the water and the vegetation. And you see the fresh kind of caving in on the upper left of that bank there, of that bluff. Next, Brian, please. This, I just climbed over the escarpment just to give you a sense of what's on the other side or of that groin. And there's this smaller one there, and then the other bulkheading you see in the distance. Next, Brian, there might be one more. Oh, there's a couple more, but this is again the long view back of the beach with the properties on the left, obviously. Next, Brian, might be one more. Again, just showing you how fresh all of this is, what occurred there. Next, please, Brian. I think that's the last one. Just coming back and just giving you again a sense of the beach. That would be the Lloyd property on the left there. Okay, thank you, Brian. Any questions, board members, on the field report? No? Okay. Okay, so do we have, is Mr. Anderson going to speak? Mr. Anderson, are you our agent this evening? I believe so. Mr. Anderson, you can unmute, please, and we have your name and address. I will swear you in if you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, go ahead, Chris, if you have any comment you want to pick up on that with anything.
We obviously, we introduced the project last week and shared some of the thinking behind it. Regarding the notices, they were definitely posted by my colleague, Mark Lasker, and his organization, that there were really intense winds in the last couple of weeks. And I think if they were gone, then that is why they were gone. But I think some of them were probably posted along Lazy Point Road, which is, the properties stretch, the actual entrance to the properties is from Lazy Point Road.
Yeah.
I would like to express thanks to the residents of Mulford Lane who we met at the end of Mulford Lane on Sunday. That there were comments last week from Warren, secretary there, and it was just important to meet people and say hello. So a big thank you to Warren and to Maureen who arranged this, and to Tom and to the various other residents there. I mean, this is an amazing group of people who are so passionate about this part of the East End. Many of them have obviously they've lived there for far longer than we have. They really care about this space, and it's been heartbreaking to a lot of people to see the erosion happen. It's been happening for many years, and there's different theories as to why it's happening. But it was very good to meet people and to have a chance to share our mutual interest in trying to do something to stop this problem. So this is there are probably many things that ultimately could and should be done by the town in this area, because it's a spectacular area, and there's just a great community out there. I think a community that sometimes feels it hasn't been listened to or had its interests really taken into account. So we don't think this is the sole solution here, but we do think it has a shot at reversing this heartbreaking problem, or slowing it down or reversing it. And we're willing to, the group of 4 neighbors here are willing to fund it. We very much recognize it's not like our beach, it's a beach to be shared by residents of Mulford Lane and others. And we want it to be a beautiful place where wildlife can enjoy itself, and where people can walk, and where we don't have this depressing, fear of the sand being eroded more every year. It looks like you went out right after there was a big storm, and it looks like we lost, at least temporarily in that storm, maybe half a foot or a foot of vertical sand. And it's very dynamic there. It goes, it comes back, and so forth. But overall, the trend is bad. And we believe this solution has real science behind it. It has a shot at reversing this problem in a sort of natural way that will not have knock-on effects to others. We promised to the residents of Mulford Lane that that in the event that this thing doesn't work for some reason, that we will take it out, and the beach will be left as it was, and that we will the project will be carefully monitored. There is a phone number literally printed on the tops of the tubes should any of them become exposed. As you know, they're intended to be buried up to a foot below the surface of the sand. Should one become exposed, it will be easy for anyone to report them. We ourselves will be monitoring them, so we're determined to do this responsibly for the community. I mean, this is we see this project. Yes, it's in the interest of these properties. If this works, it is huge for the whole region, and so it is what we'd urge the visionary people on this call to consider is that it is worth giving this technology, this experiment, a shot, just because it really could bring a new tool to the table here.
Thank you. Can I just to one point? I did notice you are bonded. It's a $2 million bond in the trustee permit. Is that correct? For the contractor to be bonded,
right?
Taking things out and all.
Yeah, I think Mark will know the details of that. If that's what we have to do, then we'll do that. We're absolutely committed to doing whatever it takes. I mean, the actual cost of taking this stuff out is a few tens of thousands of dollars. It's not a difficult project to remove them. And
can I ask you, Chris, when you met, are you working on getting a permit? I noticed in my second or third or fourth picture, there's the rocks. We all know the rocks that are there. Are you working with the Mulford owners, the association, to get access there? I imagine you're trying to.
Yes, we are, and it's obviously it's their road, but we tried to assure them that basically it's one trip of a pickup truck with a rig on the back at the start of a week to offload that and put it in, and then a week later to come back and pick it up. We need to just put a ramp over those rocks to get access to the beach, but it's not that part did not, that is not a disruptive thing, I think. Right. But so yes, we need their cooperation for that. Absolutely.
And we saw the from the submissions from Dr. Laska, it's like what, 2.4 by 1.6 meter on tracks, on rubber tracks or something.
That's right.
Device, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And you would work out where that would be parked at night times when they're, or something like that, I imagine.
Yeah, it would actually be just pushed up onto the beach into our property. There's you can see the little pathway there in the second property along, where there's room for it to be left there overnight.
Okay. Board members, any questions from?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. The trustee permit does not lay out a bond. It just stipulates that the contractor needs $2 million liability insurance.
Oh, I beg. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Typical in construction. So, but we might, in order to protect the town, request a performance or a bond for the town in case these things are not removed at the end or when they were supposed to be removed. So that might be a protection that we might want to put in place for the town. Similar to the emergency coastal structures that is in the code. I don't know. We might want to consider that, but I'm just making that point.
No, thank you. Yeah, I read that. I don't have that in front of me. I misread. Thank you, Roy, for clarifying that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that point. I mean, I think what the concerns that were voiced at the last hearing were related to maintenance, ongoing maintenance, should there be any kind of damage to the structures, and then their eventual removal at the appropriate time. And I think that kind of performance bond would provide the town the security to know that it would be maintained properly.
I agree. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I agree with that also. And if it's not maintained properly, I guess the town could go in then and take care of that. I'm still concerned about monitoring. Significant weather event in the trustees permit. Well, we see how quickly these things can happen. We saw it this weekend. I still have concerns about monitoring and how that would be handled. I would like to feel that somebody's monitoring these things on a daily basis. I mean, not examining them, but at least observing on a daily basis.
So the current plan is that, I mean, for much of the time, I or my neighbors are there anyway, and there will be sort of daily visual monitoring then. When we're not, there will definitely be someone visiting at a minimum of 1 week to weekly to look at the beach. I think the more important point is that the system's been designed to be user-friendly, as it were. So if something is exposed, what will get exposed is the soft top to these tubes, and on that there is a phone number that anyone can call and report. So if anyone from Mulford Lane or anyone coming across it sees one of these things, they can actually be reported straight away, and then we're committed to resolving that within 2 weeks. I think is the timetable in there. Mark can confirm that.
Well, that's nice, but I don't consider that. Again, it goes to responsibility. Someone having to notice it and making a phone call. I
do want to point out that it is clearly defined in the trustee permit, the ongoing monitoring. It's under paragraph 4, post-construction phase. Procedure for, and also number 5, procedure for significant weather event. So it seems like they're covering it, and they also want a procedure for coastal engineer independent study. So it seems pretty comprehensive, but we'll see.
I'd also just like to add, I would, Mulford Lane's a private lane. That, as Chris says, they all know each other. There's a, sort of an association feel, I imagine, if it's not a legal association. So I imagine there are not too many other citizens in the town who know nothing about this. My point being that probably by the time you get permission to do this and that, everyone on Mulford Lane is going to know about these. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we met with 15 of them on Sunday, and it was, it was a great group of people. So I mean, we 100% want to do this with their full collaboration and encouragement. I mean, in principle, I mean, our interests are aligned here. They would love this beach back for obvious reasons. So,
right.
Well, I guess my question then, maybe it's more for Brian, not for Chris. Would the town also need some kind of procedures and processes similar to the trustees in order, since we're not exactly the trustees, but.
Yeah, I think it's also a Nancy Lane.
That the town should have.
Yeah, and I'm sure Nancy, the attorney's office, obviously will play a role a major role in the drafting of the final determination. I know that Nancy Lynn and John Zilnicki are focused on this as well. I don't know, Nancy Lynn, do you want to comment on that?
They're generally, because we are separate entities between the trustees and the town would either need to be included on those conditions or have separate conditions. We'd look not to make them obviously not contradictory and as parallel as possible, but the town with greater exposure probably may have some additional concerns that would be brought to the ZBA's attention prior to any determination being drafted.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Nancy Lynn. Why don't we, before we go to Brian, Dr. Laska, do you have a comment or two, I imagine?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to make a comment.
Oh, actually, I'm going to swear you in for this evening. Dr. Laska, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Good evening.
Good evening. So I want to echo the concern that I heard from Ms. Berger that about the length of monitoring. And so we're going to have a lot of eyes on this beach. I think as the chairman has really clearly described, and as we heard from Chris, everyone on Mulford Lane either already knows about this project or will be knowing about the project. We've agreed to have a regular presence out there, and as part of the permit condition for the trustee permit, we are obligating ourselves to make observations. We're going to supplement people observing with at least one webcam or some kind of camera placed out on a post that will give us a view of the beach. So I really think that we're not being haphazard about our observations. We're going to be as regimented as we can given the situation. The other comment is I do want to verify it is a $2 million insurance policy. It is not a bond, and that this independent review, this was discussed at length with the trustees. There was sort of a vague trigger for this independent review. What their permit says if the trustees believe the permit has advanced erosion or otherwise caused harm, the trustees may request a termination of the project or an independent assessment. So these are somewhat vague triggers. There's nothing that says if a certain number of feet of sand go away, it's because of PEMS. So it's a very subjective analysis. And I believe it's the intention of the EcoShore contractor who is going to be installing these things, as well as my firm or a comparable firm that Chris would hire later to make sure and ensure that we're on top of this so that there's no surprises. So that's the intent of these permit conditions, and that's the intent of the homeowners for the application of these devices.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we hear from Brian and the planning department, Brian Frank. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Brian Frank, planning department.
I will go ahead and swear you in, Brian. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I don't really have a lot of comments to add. I think we went over largely the scope of the planning department's evaluation at last week's meeting. I'll just reiterate that the planning department had been evaluating the merits or the possible concerns about this application since prior to the application submission. We did confer with the coastal process specialist at New York State Sea Grant, as well as the deputy regional permit administrator at DEC. Obviously, they're reviewing this application as well. And just to summarize the assessment very briefly, again, the planning department has not identified potential adverse environmental impacts resulting from the installation of these structures below the surface of the beach. Based on the time frame that the installation is required, the fact that they are subsurface structures, there has not been an identifiable impact to the quality of the resources, either to the dune, the beach, or the foreshore. These applications are unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The zoning board is the lead agency for these applications. And just to get into a little of the boring housekeeping stuff, the draft EAFs that were prepared by the planning department are just that. They're draft documents. They were prepared by the planning department. When the board makes its deliberations, you'll make your findings and you'll modify these documents to the extent that you feel is necessary, and make a declaration pursuant to SECRA. SECRA requires that if you identify multiple or even a singular potentially significant environmental impact, you're required to issue a positive declaration and require the preparation of an environmental impact statement. In the environmental assessment forms that were prepared, the planning department didn't see any threshold that triggered potential significant environmental impacts. The most pertinent questions in those forms I elaborated on as much as possible, rather than to just check a box that say no, but to provide a little context in the environmental setting section of those forms, as well as several of the most pertinent questions for coastal construction as to why the planning department felt that the impacts were either absent or small impacts. Similarly, the board does need to make a finding as to coastal consistency with these actions as coastal construction applications. The zoning board has an obligation to make a determination that this action is consistent with the LWRP. Similarly, you have draft coastal assessment forms that are that largely parallel the state coastal assessment forms, and similarly, they're draft documents. The planning department does believe that this is consistent with the LWRP, or at the very least not inconsistent with the LWRP, and recommends that the zoning board certify them as such. I do want to be clear that the LWRP, while it does speak at length of traditional hard structures and favoring soft restoration techniques, this technology is not reflected in the LWRP. So the supposition that this is consistent with the LWRP is largely based on, again, its subsurface installation, the fact that it's a relatively passive beach building technique. And again, there's not a footprint that's physically occupying beach or dune space, and provided they stay buried as proposed and monitored and repaired as proposed, similarly should not result in a diminishment of the limited public access that's out there. To mention some of the permit conditions, I think as Council Thiel touched on earlier, the zoning board should look at permit conditions that they feel parallel, presuming that the application is granted, because obviously you wouldn't put conditions on something you're denying. But if the application is granted, the zoning board's permit is separate from the trustee's permit, and the zoning board should look for permit conditions that parallel the trustee's permits, because it is a different vessel, or complement them, and look for ways to minimize the exposure to the town. Beyond that, I don't know if there's anything else that you want me to elaborate on, or any questions that you have. I'll certainly do my best if you do.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and thank you for all of your work on this. We appreciate it. Why don't we go to the public callers, and then we can always circle back to Mr. Anderson and Dr. Laska at the end after that. LTV, do we have anyone on the line here?
Yes, we have a few callers. I could unmute the first caller where the last four digits are 7619. I'll unmute right now.
Thank you.
Hi, this is 7619. I don't have any comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, Michael, if you please.
Yes, the next caller's last four digits are 5022. Unmuting now.
Why don't we go to the public callers, and then we can always circle back to.
Hello, caller. Last four digits 5022. Are you there?
Yes.
If you could kindly mute your television in the background and introduce yourself.
Well, I have the meeting on right now. You want to mute?
Okay. Well, yeah, we want you to turn off the TV or mute it, because we get feedback. Okay.
Okay,
And if
all
you-
right. Let me just,
Chairman, good evening. Could you please give us your name and address and spell your name and
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. My name is Maureen Vieprick. I met with Chris Anderson on Sunday.
No, hold on a second. Sorry. Hold on. Maureen, hold on, please.
Okay. Sure.
We need you to spell your name. Give us your address first
Sure.
before you speak. And before you speak, I have to swear you in unless you're an attorney. And that goes for everyone else listening tonight. If you're coming on the air, the first thing I need is your name, the spelling, the address, and let me know if you're an attorney. Okay? So go ahead, please.
Bye. My name is Maureen Vieprick. Last name is spelled V as in Victor, E, P as in Paul, R-E-K. I live at 109 Mulford Lane for the last 42 years. And you're going to swear me in, so I'm going to put my hand up and swear
Okay,
that
thank
everything
you.
I tell you is the truth.
Okay, thank you. Do you? I have to say this. So do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead. Now you go ahead and speak, please.
Okay. As a resident of Mulford Lane for the last 42 years, I've obviously observed the change that has happened. We lost 200 feet, and we have a house that's out in the water. We affectionately known as the poster child of erosion, and it sits out there. It's owned by Gary Ryan, who had high hopes of redoing it. I presently am the president of the Napeak Beach Club. I met Mr. Anderson with his wife on Sunday, and we had what I consider a really good open meeting. And the homeowners on the association, are owners in common. And so, like you might own your house with your wife, they need to vote if they are going to expose themselves to basically opening up this area to more traffic that they really, really don't want. But in any case, they are voting on whether or not they want to have any involvement in it. They will have an answer by February 10th. That's what I've given them as a target date. And we've seen the changes, obviously, that have happened all around us. And we feel in my household, and I can only speak for myself, I'm not speaking as the president, that this project should move forward with the East Hampton Township. And the town periodically has pilot programs, and maybe this needs to be, a collaboration with the town to have it as a pilot program through some of the grants that they've secured over time. And I'm well aware of money that was collected during Sandy. That was basically to buy us out. But we're not interested in that right now. One of the things that was discussed on Sunday with Mr. Anderson was the guideline that would have to be in place for any removal of the pipes if they were to be exposed during a wild storm or replaced back into the earth, into that sand area. And there needs to be what would be a moderate timeline, not months and months, but more days and days. Certainly the monitoring that you're talking about from this person or that, we basically monitor that beach daily only because we really, really love it. And so we have that certainly in common with the four homeowners. One of the people who presented information at the meeting mentioned that there was a scenic easement for these four properties when Richard Principe's family was selling off those lands, and whether or not that becomes a deterrent in some way for, an okay for something like this. We also talked about trying to have construction happen before May 15th or after October 15th. And the reason is that the houses become filled in many ways. They're either by the owners of the house, some of them are rental properties, but in any case, the street has become flooded, basically, with traffic. And so we're trying to address that also. Just as an observation for everybody's knowledge, the jetty at the McMahon House, which used to be the McMahon House, it's been resold recently, needs to be trimmed. And that has, we feel, been one of the contributing factors of this land being chewed. Another is that the dredging has happened on the west entrance to the harbor. And so we never get any of that sand. And I think your town representative, your town engineer, Mr. Bennett, had indicated at some other former hearing for Josh Young that we lose 440,000 cubic yards of sand on a regular basis, because when you clean out the harbor, you also eliminate that amount of sand being spread through littoral drift.
Okay, thank you. You know what? I've given you a lot of. I've given you some extra time because you represent your neighbors. So
2 seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
Just 2 seconds that you use snub jetties that are down on the trustees' land, and that might be also something that needs to be considered along this north face heading toward the Gardiner's Bay. And we're working out what we can with Mr. Anderson. We're waiting for the vote that will come from the people who live on Mulford Lane, and thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for participating. Mike at LTV, next caller.
Yes, there's one more caller. The last four digits are 1842. I'm unmuting now.
Hello?
Hello, caller. With
Hello?
the last four. Yes, caller, could you state your name?
Tom. Hi, how are you? Wow, you guys are running late. Thank you so much. Thomas Muse, M-U-S-E, 35 Mulford Lane.
Okay, good evening, Tom. I'll swear you in, Tom. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just some brief comments on, just right up front, I hope everybody in the room can sort of agree to each other that this is an experimental project. I've looked up the paperwork on the technology, and it's super thin. I'm not, just describing the weight of the reports and the studies and actual field reports of this technology. It's very thin, and so. Beaches are our number one asset, and we all know that. So I think it behooves us to look at this project very, very deeply. And I agree with most of the board members, and John, I know your comments about how spaced out these series of the tubes are. I was surprised as well. However, I think the long and short, we'd love to find new technology. So if this was going to be successful, we'd all be loved to bring it on. The town has failed in the past with trying to figure out how to mitigate and remove projects. And we have that glaring example, which has really changed the beach at the end of Bay Road. Everybody knows about that project. I know it's something that you guys are working on. But right in our field of view, we have a failure in my book, because I can't even access that part of the beach anymore. With my family. So we've been totally disenfranchised by that project, and it's just been left to linger, and it's way beyond its permits expiration dates, and we're just fearful that this was happen here. So I would encourage the board to be creative, and the attorneys, it's more, I guess, the attorneys, to figure out how to get this project out if it's a failure, and we limit that time and codify that somehow legally. And I know that's tough, and maybe we can bond it. Now, they talk about $2 million bond. That's just every contractor has around that for their works. That's not a specific site bond that's, unless it is, and we would really like to know that. So I will follow up in writing all of these things. We'd love to find new technology. I understand these things are made of PVC, so I would also encourage, you know, and this is sort of short of asking for an EIS. I'm not even, I don't even know why I'm not, I probably should be asking for an EIS because these properties are encumbered by a scenic easement. And as far as I know, if anybody approached me and said, I want to do X, Y, and Z structurally in a scenic easement, it would be like a stop right there. So because these things are, we're going so far out of our way to accommodate these applicants, we need to double down on, and I'd like to have some beach profiling. I've looked through the literature, and these guys have not even profiled the beach over a certain number of times. So I would see we've seen 6, 8 months, maybe 12 months of beach profiling. Every few weeks, they profile the beach. Then we would know where to set these tubes. Right now, when they go out there to set the tubes, to me, it seems very arbitrary unless that can be established at that time with more information. So I do have a lot of questions. I know it's a tough. I know we would love to find new technology, and I understand the spirit of the project. I'm behind that. I think the project's very thin. I'd like to know more. I would think my concern is that we don't go to the beach and see the PVC tube sitting up, and how long it would take to mitigate that, and who's responsible. And we all know that owners walk away from projects on the coast all the time when projects are damaged. They fold their hands and they go away. So the public wants to be assured. I know you guys are doing your job. Thank you so much for your time. All this will be written and submitted to the board. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And yes, we certainly, as you know, we are covering all those bases. We certainly will be if this is approved. Okay, Mike at LTV, anyone else on the line, sir?
No, there are no more callers.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Or I think we can wrap it up here, huh? Any questions, board members, for Chris or Dr. McLaska? Or
No.
No? Okay. Okay, then this being in my district, I will make a motion with regard to the 4 applicants along Shore Road. Mr. Douglas Lloyd at 611 Shore Road, Chris Anderson at 619, Demelis Marin at 621, and 632 Shore Road Realty LLC at 623 Shore Road. That we close the public hearing and leave the written record open until 2 weeks after the time that the transcript is posted on the Town of East Hampton website.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
And I concur.
Okay, thank you all, and thank you, Chris and Dr. Laska. Thank you guys. And for all those participants, we appreciate you calling in and being a part of this. Okay, we'll move on now. We have, let's see, we have draft minutes of, next we have the minutes, I believe. Yes, we
No,
have.
we have a
No, we haven't had-
post-hearing determination, and
Yeah,
I
sorry.
would love to be able to put this off, but it's.
No, we won't. No, I just skipped ahead. Sorry, I was going to, my apologies. Okay, I'll go ahead and read this in. We have a post-hearing decision here for Jonathan Endy. Lot size and location is 15,501 square feet at 11 Industrial Road, Montauk, tax map number 300-27-3-13. And the description here, and then I don't have to read everything in. I'll just say that it is to demolish an existing residence and construct a 1,122 square foot 2-story residence with 484 square feet of decking, sanitary system, and driveway, and a parcel line containing freshwater, wetlands, and surface waters. And Terry, I believe this was yours. Would you pick it up here, Terry, please?
Okay. As we know, or as I know, this is a presently pre-existing non-conforming property on Industrial Road, somewhat near the corner of Edgemere Street in Montauk. It's been there for a long time. Actually, I always call it the cute little yellow house. And this property is being redeveloped. There was a lot of the survey that's up there now, Brian, that was, that's the updated one? Or this is the one, what, March 20th?
This is March 11th.
March 11th. Okay. So this was this was the original. So this is the survey that was submitted with the application that we had the hearing discussing. And this property is surrounded, as you can see, by, Fort Pond, covering the eastern side, as well as some of the south and going around toward the southwestern side of the property. It also has wetlands across Industrial Road, known as Little Fort Pond, and it's severely constrained. At the hearing, there was the representative was Brian Locascio and Katie Osicki were the agents for the applicant. And this house, basically they needed a couple of variances, one for the house itself and the decking. On this southeastern type corner here, the house was moved back about 5 feet. So the closest point for the variance for the house itself went from 23 feet to, as it exists today, to 28 feet from the wetlands and Fort Pond. And on the opposite end of the house on the southern side, on the western end, where the decking was moved from the eastern side, and is being proposed to go to the western end of it, there's a variance that would have the decking 30 feet from the wetlands. There was a lot of discussion on this, and this is a modular home that is being proposed. Additionally, they were proposing the pervious driveway, and they agreed at the time of the hearing to extra revegetation and a significant buffer that you see here in blue, and revegetation in green. They agreed at the hearing to make that a little more robust and increase the buffer. They also agreed here on the western side of the property, heading down to the wood dock. The dock is going to remain, but the pathway to it is going to be narrowed to an 8-foot width for the length of that, and also revegetation and buffer will be provided. It is a redevelopment, so there is a new IA system that will be going in the best location that it could, which also has a variance of, I believe it's 73 feet. Or 73 feet from the wetlands. So overall, there was a lot of good conversation in the application, and I kind of applaud both the applicant and Brian Frank, who it seems was very patient and worked on this with the applicant for a very long time to come up with what looks like the best possible positioning and sizing for a redevelopment of a property. I think it does meet the standards. This is also Harbor Protection Overlay District. The applicants did submit an updated survey after the hearing, which shows the additional buffering and revegetations that are being done with the amounts of with the square footage. I'm having trouble reading this thing. Okay. So I am looking to approve this. I think it does meet the natural resources standards. They have an extensive construction protocol provided also. It's a modular home, which lends itself a little bit better considering the constraints of this property overall with the surrounding waters and the wetlands. And we have a construction protocol that they submitted on October 20th of 2020. And that updated survey, I think was also, let's see the date.
November 20th, Terry.
November 20th, yeah, we received it on December 1st. Okay. What else I have in here? I wish we had done this at the beginning of the meeting. Not conforming. I mentioned that there is no conforming building envelope on this property. That's, I think about it from my notes, but like I said, I do think it meets the standards. I think while the variances are large, they're the best that they can be. And there are no other conforming locations for any of these variances. And so I think this will be a good project. I think we do need to have planning and buildings, watch the construction on this very carefully, since it is in such a severe constrained location.
Terry, you gave slightly different variance numbers than what was in the notice. So I'm just checking. 72 and 71 and 153. Is that the variance is necessary? Can we just verify that?
72 would leave it 28. Yeah. 71 is at 29 for the other side, the decking.
Okay.
And
it's
sanitary system, 47 feet from the wetlands.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 153. Okay, I just wanted to verify that. I didn't think there was any shift.
Oh, okay.
But I just want to make sure that was consistent. Okay, thank you.
We also have some other documents. You probably have those, Nancy Lynn. The construction protocol, I think I mentioned.
Yep, I have all that. Yep.
There's a sanitary plan. And have all that, right? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Tim, comments, Tim?
Sure. I'm in complete agreement with Member Berger on this. I was out and walked that property over the weekend, and I was just struck by, even though it's on the survey doesn't do justice for the location and how that home is perched where it is. But this is a modest project. We have revegetation. The sanitary is clearly an upgrade. And I'm very satisfied with this application. I do think it meets our Nrsp standards. And I also believe it meets our variance standards, and I'm looking to approve it as well.
Okay.
I'm surprised you call it a modest project.
Okay. Roy?
Yeah, I agree too, Mr. Chairman. I think it greatly improves the existing environmental concerns on this property. The increased buffer is a definite positive to this application. So without further ado, I agree with our other members.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Ed?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Member Brenneman. You have to stand on the site to realize just how delicate it can be to even attempt a project here. And I think that the effort's been made in planning has been a good one. I think that we've seen a very small change in footprint. I particularly like the idea, as Member Berger said, that this is a prefab house, which limits the amount of time and the kind of damage, collateral damage that might be done during construction, having units placed by a crane. That seems to be an advantage to here. It's these slopes go so dramatically down to the water that being careful about what we do on this site is really extremely important. That was stressed at the hearing. I think that there seems to be an effort to follow that fairly clearly here with fencing, and we'll have to make sure the protocols are in place. I like the IA system placement. When we were on the site, I thought it's probably the only place it could have gone, but that certainly was a good idea. I do want to make note that I don't think that any approval at this time includes the wood dock. The wood dock is in somewhat disrepair, and we all visited it, or at least I did, with Member Berger. And that's not been included in this application and should not be considered to be something that can be rebuilt here without further a different application. But with all that in mind and the fact that the re-veg has been placed and many of the other things were mentioned by the other members, I'm also looking to approve this application.
Okay, thank you, Ed. I agree with all of you. So I will not repeat your comments. But I too am looking to approve this application. So thank you all on that. Council, we good on that?
Yes, I have everything I need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I've looked at the minutes, board members. Do we, for January 19th, 2021, do we have a motion from any of you on the minutes?
Yes, I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the minutes of January 19, 2021 for the Zoning Board of Appeals for East Hampton Town.
Second.
Second, that I will concur with that.
I'll concur.
And I concur. Thank you, Tim. Okay, next we'll move on to resolutions. We have Carilli at 30 North Surfside Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-29-1-18.8. Let's see, this is in Montauk. Let's see, Terry, do you have this one or Ed?
I didn't even notice this got on the agenda. Was there an email sent out on it?
Yeah, I was looking. Actually, I was looking. Brian, can you comment on this? I was looking, I didn't see.
You have an extension of time. You already discussed it. This is just to accept the resolution.
Oh, okay, I remembered. I just didn't.
Yep, resolution as drafted, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, so then I have the tax map. I guess I can go ahead and make the motion. Yeah, I think we all recall this. There was some fencing that deteriorated on this project and was producing sediment into the wetlands, and it was for an extension of time. They've worked that out and they're moving forward and correcting the problems that exist. So in the matter of Carilli at 30 North Surfside Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-29-1-18.8, I make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Terry. And thank you, Brian, for your work on this. Okay, next we have Rebecca Naster at tax map number 300-103-5-43. This was heard back November 10th, 2020. We have a determination. This is regarding allowing a patio of 350 square feet to remain within rear yard lot line setbacks. And pardon me. And wait, I just want to get something here. Sorry. Right, and this is in Vice Chair Delene Springs District. Roy, you want to pick up on this?
Which one are we doing, John?
Yeah, we're doing Naster. It was again, I've read it all out. We all.
I read that as well, and so I make a motion to accept the application for Rebecca Naster at 11 Windward, East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-103-5-43.
Right.
You accept the resolution as drafted?
As written, yes.
Yeah, the determination. Yeah.
I concur with that.
Okay.
I concur.
And I concur as well, right? These are determinations. The next one we have is Selman Rosen, and this is the Selman Rosen Family Trust LLC at 49 Sandpiper Lane in Amagansett. And this is in my Amagansett district. Pardon me, I have this right here. I have too many things open on my screen. Here we are. There we go. Pardon me, here it is. Let's see, I gave the tax map number. This is at 49 Sandpiper Lane in Amagansett. We had a very healthy discussion on this, and all board members concurred on the approval here. So with regard to the Selman Rose and Amagansett Trust LLC at 49 Sandpiper Lane in Amagansett, I make a motion to approve the determination as written.
Second.
I'll concur.
Concur. Concur.
Thank you all. Council,
Hey,
anything else?
We have one more. It's the walk-on for the typo on Emmanuel Fresco.
Oh, yes, I have that here. Yes, thank you. I'll read that in. Thank you, Nancy Lynn. So this is a resolution amending determination for Emmanuel Fresco at tax map number 300-37-2-6. And this is to amend the determination from January 26, 21. And the proper location here is at 19 Isle of Wight Road in Springs. And we've all read this. And so let's see, this is in Springs. Roy, do you want to make a motion to approve?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution amending determination for Emmanuel Fresco, Suffolk tax map number 300-37-2-6.
Second.
I think Tim beat it.
Got that one. Tim got
Tim
that one.
got that one, Terry, right?
I'll
Okay,
concur.
and I concur as well. Council, anything else on your end?
Nope, that's all we need today.
Okay, boy, thank you all. Thank you all. Wow, that was fun.
Do we have to go? Do we have to go?
We need always a good time. We need a
We're
motion.
just getting warmed up.
Yeah, we're just getting going, exactly. We could go all night if we wanted to. Vice Chair Deline, how about a motion from you? That would be nice.
Sure. I make a motion to close the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals hearing for Tuesday, February 2nd at 10:25 p.m.
We have a second.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur.
Good
And,
night. Good night.
thank you, Brian. Brian, safe trip home. Thank you, Michael, Kyle, Eleni, Nancy Lynn, and LTV.
Everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Good
all.
night, everyone. Thank you. Good night.